I'll make you something in an hour, Matthew.
1.
Actually, I'm just. I don't know.
Will you close that door for me, son?
Right, folks, that's us live. So welcome along to Tweet Street Scotland Occupied, home of the satirical soul tire. I'm Cinnamon Bridges, aka Peter.
No.
With me this evening, we have co-host Eileen Spence returning. Eileen, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm more than good. I'm absolutely raging about Perth, right? Their attempts to shut us up with a peril clutching, right? Can he see shite for a shilling? Who do they think they are?
Aye, well, we'll go on to that in a wee bit, right? We'll go on to that in a wee bit. We've also got this co-host, Porty. Porty Soul, how you doing, buddy?
Very well, Peter, as usual. Very
Good
well.
to see you. Now, there's a common theme with the guest, the returning guest that we've got, Scott Forbes. Eileen knows him for Twitter. Porty knows him for Twitter. I know him for Twitter, but Porty, you know him, like, it goes away back. So let's introduce the guest. Scott, welcome back, mate. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, Peter. Aye, brilliant. This week's been good. This week's been good. Banned for Twitter. Banned for Twitter. Oh, sorry, locked out for Twitter. And a best-selling offer within a week. What can I say, Johnny? What can I say?
Right. That's we're going to talk about the usual. We're going to talk about well, first of all, we're going to talk about Scott's book, the best-selling author that we've got as guest, and then we're going to talk about the news and what's happened in Scotland pretty much this week. Perth earlier on in the week, Edinburgh right at the beginning of the week, and Inverness today. There was an indie march in Inverness today, so to everybody that made it, well done. A wee personal message, happy birthday to my dad. He's 70 today, so happy birthday, old man. And commiserations.
Happy birthday, Peter's dad.
Cheers, Sporty. And commiserations to my stepson who had the sex reveal party today of his of the soon-to-be born child, and it wasn't quite what he'd hoped it was going to be. So it was one of the ones. So commiserations to the young man. Right. Anyway, let's get in about this for the night. Scott Forbes is returning. He's since released the book A Long Walk to Justice, and
Read him.
oh, sorry, A Long Walk to Justice was I done this before. I done a poster. I put the wrong hang on. A Long Walk to Freedom. My apologies, folks. A Long Walk to Freedom is the name of the book. It's about the incarceration, pretty much, a child, a 14-year-old child, and there's some questions that's to be asked about it. And Scott started asking the questions and started providing us, hopefully, with some answers. So, Scott, tell us a wee bit about the journey that you've had since we spoke to you last to getting the book released, please, mate.
Last time we spoke, Peter, my book was ready for release. Phone calls after phone calls after phone calls. People bringing more stuff to the table. I kept putting it off and putting it off. Now it's released. Listen, genuinely, I make jokes and fun. And I'm quite taken aback with the reaction. It's a bestseller in the legal department or legal books in Amazon. That's quite a feat in a week. If you read the reviews, I've had them peer reviewed, and brilliant. I'm actually very proud. I don't listen. Porty will tell you I'm not a man for boasting or bragging or taking things on. Well done, Scott. Listen, this week is I've been pretty special. If I'm being honest, I never launched a book and had fancy parties and whatever. I just launched it, pressed a button, and it was launched. And the reviews, for QCs and lawyers, phone calls for people from my past, for childhood, and listen, I feel pretty good this week. I clicked on the Amazon earlier, and it said the one best-selling on Kindle. Is it Kindle or Kindle? right? Kindle, and people were sending it to me, Peter. I'm very, listen, no proud. Proud's not the right word because I've not achieved what I've said to achieve yet. Good. It's all good. It's all good.
Well,
I must tell you, it's the worst miscarriage of justice in Scottish legal history. Now, there's only one case worse or bigger, and that'd be Al McGrackie, Lockerbie. Lockerbie's massive because of the amount of people who died. This is a wee boy and a wee girl. When you read it, I hope you all read my book. I'll give you one for nothing if anybody's not got money. I'm not caring. What they done to this wee boy? I spoke to his mum yesterday, Peter, right? I hope she doesn't mind me saying this. Yeah. Corey Mitchell, I think, is now 60 or somewhere thereabouts. He's had strokes and she lives herself and all. I've never seen anybody bullied, intimidated and tortured for so many years as Corey Mitchell, Luke Mitchell's mother. And it was done by media. I'm not going to name her anymore because she shut me down. She's trying to sue me. She's, listen, one judge, Jane Hamilton, the other. They terrorised that
We
woman.
know who she is.
Terrorised her for 17 years. Corey Mitchell, even when she had a stroke, I was still writing lies about her in the paper. She got done for perjury. That's just lies. And she phoned me the other day and Harley could speak. She was thanking me. Scott, thanks. Standing up for us. And listen, I'm sitting in my house, nearly tears wiped my ears. So this week's been quite emotional. No different. I've had people like Porty, people that go back as far as me and Porty, and we go back for a long time.
A long time.
A long time, 40, nearly 50 years, 40 odd years, 50 years, me and him go back. The people for that era, if you like, phoning me and congratulations, Scott. And some of the messages have been quite touching. I'm not a sentimental man, and this week's been quite. The books certainly having an impact.
Aye.
It's having an impact. If it has the impact that I'm looking for, brilliant.
Right, well, Porty, I'm going to come to you first of all because Scott mentioned you're usually a wee back.
We certainly do.
Well, chip in then. Let me hear. What's your initial thoughts on the book? First of all, obviously, no your friendship or anything like that.
To be honest with you, I know what it means to Scott, and what he's doing is a most honourable thing. To be expected to anybody with a conscience, to be honest with you, but proud of him, really proud of him.
Aye, come on.
No, because Scott
didn't grieving, Scott.
No yet, son. I've got handkeys.
Because Scott didn't know that Porty was coming on this tonight. Scott sent me a message earlier on in the week saying, "Do you know this guy?" And I says, "Aye, I know this guy." And he says, "We need to catch up, right? So we're going to catch up, no online about this, but we'll catch up after about this." But it was a wee Porty I came on board and done a couple of podcast ways, and it was keen to do more. And I knew I had something lined up with you, Scott. I agreed with you that the potential once the book was coming out. So I thought, well, I'll try and marry the two of them together. And Eileen, I'm going to bring you in now, right? Because you've spoke in messages to me about Scott initially, about some things I should listen to this guy and this person that was at the time wasn't a guy. It was just need to listen to this, and I'm like, right, okay, and as a result of that kind of put me in touch with Scott to ask him to come on to the podcast, and then he says, "Oh well, I'm working on kind of things at the minute," and then further down the line he ended up coming onto the podcast. So there's a wee bit of link there, right? There's a wee bit of link goes through, and you'll probably see that theme as we go through the rest of this evening's news, if you like. So just bringing it back to what you were saying there, Scott, because we had spoke privately, just so that anybody that didn't watch the podcast that we done, the live stream that we done already, Scott, just to bring them up into speed a bit. We had spoke privately, and you had gave me a couple of threads to kind of a look at about this case, about the Luke Mitchell, Jodie Jones case, and my memory for how it was reported in the mainstream, and this goes back to, like, again, how this kind of a thing was set up. It was more independence based than how the independence movement get framed in the run up to the 2014 referendum, and there was the possibility, the chance that we were going to be having another one. So it was like to try and counter the lies and the bullshit that they feed you, right? So that was it. And it's the same with the media and what have you. So it's the same way with this case. So when he gave me the couple of threads, and I'm like, I can remember how it was reported in the media and the things that were said about the young boy. So it gave me something to look at, and I thought, well, that's no how I remember it. But I was a lot younger then, and I put it down to maybe I don't remember it quite the same. However, that puts a different slant on the full case, looking at it this. And then when you look at, when you become older and you start knowing what rights and procedures that should be followed, and especially with minors, there's obviously a case there that leaves, well, hold on, why was a 14-year-old left interrogated, as Scott's put it across on the previous live stream? So that was the kind of the initial questions that I had, and Scott come on and then he told us a wee bit more, and it's expanded. And there's a group, there's a Facebook group that I know anyway, Scott, and you'll probably know a lot more than me, that they follow this case, and I mean, forensically they're talking about it, and you've got all these cold case people now looking at it since, I'm saying since I've spoke to Scott, I'm noticing it more since I've spoke to Scott. So I'm not saying that, well, Scott's a catalyst. However, I believe he is. In this book, hopefully, with the tag that you gave it, and I'm going to do a wee screen share here, Scott, just to confirm what you were saying. And there it's there. A Long Walk to Justice.
I prefer the bit at the top, #1 bestseller.
Well, that's why I'm going to read through it, right?
Brilliant.
Long Walk to Justice, right? It's only got 4.5 stars, mate, right? So right.
The 4.5, the half star was a certain journalist and a couple of
I can imagine.
You can it?
Right, 4.5 stars, right? Bestseller.
Was it Cookie? Was it Cookie?
Aye. And a couple of people from Dalkeith. Look, can I just tell you quick that the last few days has all been good. And my daughter, listen, Danderhall Miners Facebook page, my daughter jumps in, I'm proud of my dad, and there's a man telling her, tell your dad, stick the book up brown in her brown eyes. She says, you must know your dad, you've got brown eyes. I says, you know, talking about eyes. and my daughter's cheeky, you can imagine where she gets that from. I started reading it, Peter, and then listen, they're telling people on social media, oh, the body was covered in Luke Mitchell's DNA. It's just lies. It never happened. I've going to start photoshopping case files. But listen, once you wanted that, see, once you jump into their level and you take it to their, I'm going to say their record level, you're lost. You're lost. You just, this week's been beautiful and brilliant in some ways, and some of the abuse and some of the nonsense I've read is just.
It's to be expected, though, mate.
Listen, I'll take on the chin. Listen, I'll take anything on the chin. I'm up for it.
You've put a target there, mate. That's
aye, of course.
100%. Unfortunately, there's a lot of arseholes on it.
God, I'm nearer to your dad's age, Peter, right? So when I was looking at this case, you know, when it happens, kind of thing, it was very perspective, and there was always something stinky poo about it, right? Things weren't adding up, right? And like, for example, even the way that youngster was interviewed, there are standard operating procedures in every police station stating that a 14-year-old child, a minor, right, should not be interviewed for a certain length of time, right, should have a responsible adult with them, should not be interviewed on their own, right? There's got to be safeguards there because he was a kid. They just threw away the book. They threw away the rules with all of this in the way that they even started interviewing this child, right? It was child abuse.
Oh,
there was no DNA evidence, not a scrap of it on him, right? None of the things that you would expect, you know, in any other cases, right? They had just decided, okay, we've got him, he'll do. he's it, right? That's it. We're not going to look at anybody else. And that's the way it struck me at the time, right? And your book just, for me, it filled in
Did
some
you
of
read
the...
it, Yona? Did you read it?
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much.
I bought it. You told me.
Well, see,
I'm
I'm
gonna,
at a
listen,
disadvantage
when
here.
my copies come, listen, I promised when my books come, they're not coming till the 30th, but I promised Rattles when I was in Glasgow, I was going to go and visit and take her a book, right? And
Well,
do you remember John Halliday, the advocate, Peter? He was on.
aye, John,
right,
aye.
John wrote a nice essay, very legal, brilliant, first class, concerning the interviewing of a child. Anyway, he said it to me a couple of weeks ago. We examined it and we're thinking, oh, Luke Mitchell was 14. Now, the High Court in Edinburgh, Lord Nimmo Smith, please, I don't want to go into conspiracy. People have to look at Lord Nimmo Smith first. Behind the scenes, he says that Lord Turnbull, now Lord Turnbull, the QC, the Deputy Advocate, the prosecuting manager, gave the best speech he's ever heard in court to the jury. Turnbull told everybody, you tell the best story about the case. Now, they accepted that a 14-year-old boy was interrogated. You think of the word, interrogated. Now, I'm reading John Halliday's essay last week about the rights of a child. Now, Craig Dobie, the prosecutor, the leading detective in the case, Jodie Jones' aunt, I can't even pronounce her second name, but Agnes, they work in child protection. They work in child protection. They're taking a 14-year-old boy and interrogating him in between the breaks when he's went to the toilet for a pee, or grabbing him in the face and banging his face with walls. You better confess, you wee fucking beast. He's 14. Terrified. By the way, he's never been in a police station in his life. His mother, they accused his mother of all sorts of being a drug addict. Oh, listen, a lot of just lies. So you've got a 14-year-old boy, no protection whatsoever, no child protection, and the appeal court accept it. Okay, listen, but that's only one the issue of the case, and they push it aside. So now in Scotland, 2003, you're entitled, legally entitled, according to Lord Nimmo Smith, that's really that you can interrogate children. Think of the word. There's no question them. You wouldn't question an adult or a solicitor. They interrogate them for 12 hours. And because listen, he was a cheeky laddie, please listen. And I pissed off and he gave as good as you during an interview. Now, me and Porty, no, at that age at 14, we were in police stations. Can I have a little carte blanche to say what I want here?
Yes.
When we were 15, 16, I seen Porty handcuffed to a police seat and beat black and blue. Now,
Yes.
do you remember that? And then
Yes.
he come in my mum's hotel maybe a year later, and the same police officers who beat him black and blue when he was handcuffed are now in a bar and they're scared of me and him. My mum owned a bar now. That's when we were 16 and we were wild. And then you're getting questioned. Luke Mitchell was 14. 14. And he's getting people poking him in the face, choking him in the toilet. You little beast, you bastard. You better confess. 14. And they allowed this in court. Now, I understand the nature of Jodie Jones. If you seen what the killer done to Jodie, oh Jesus, I've seen some violence in my life, but this is taking it to extreme levels. So I can understand passion and anger to get the killer, but a 14-year-old boy, terrorise him. They terrorise him, and the court allowed this. Now, when you go further into the case and then what I've done, my book I think highlights most. They never had a shred of evidence. You could have been walking up the road that day and it could have been you. It could have been the boy Mark Kane I took to the police station. I begged him, genuinely. Me and him went a walk one day at Sheriffmuir. And I says to him, Mark, this is all wrong, you know this. And then the lad had been a heroin addict since he's 14. He's very clever with police, very manipulative, he knew the score. And two eyewitnesses who seen a man on that road, Fleming and Reid, first seen a man standing at New Battle Abbey College and then further up the road with a duffel coat. That was Mark Kane, in my opinion. And Mark Kane believed that. And I says to him, as we were walking, Mark, you know this wee boy's in the prison for something he never done. Please speak out. And his words to me was, fuck Luke Mitchell. And I said, no, that's not happening. Now, further we walk on and we speak, and later on after I speak out, there's a big fight, understandably so. But Porty will tell you, if I've got something to say, I say it. And listen, you lose friends along the way, but I had to do this. Luke Mitchell was the worst miscarriage. Listen, I can't emphasise this enough. I'm a Scottish historian, the same as us. Who killed the Red Fox? who got killed for it, kidnapped, right? The film. Luke Mitchell's worse. There's Joe Steele, Tommy Campbell. They were fighting up, but they were sort of criminals, and I wasn't justifying that. Al McGrackie, because there's me. But Luke Mitchell's 14. Isn't he? Genuinely, I tell you, people look at you and think you're stupid. There is not a shred of evidence. How can that be? How can you attack somebody, pull them in the hair, punch them, pick them, bludgeon them to death, and tie them up, strip them, and then mutilate the body and not a shred? It's impossible. The police and the media messed up real big time, and the arrogance. Do you remember the police officer, Hillsborough? Do you remember the arrogance here?
David Duckenby. That was it.
Right. Craig Dobie, and I'm putting myself right here with a target police. Craig Dobie, the investigating officer in this case, has got the same arrogance. Right? He messed up. He messed up big time. And instead he's saying, oh, here, and he still had a chance to go and find the real killers and investigate. He never. He just picked a 14-year-old boy. And oh, see, even after I finished this book, I'm telling you, I'm getting phone calls on a daily basis. People who are saying, Scott, have you seen this? Have you seen? And some of it I've seen and some of it I've known. It's sad, and you could write that. I could sit now and write another book about people coming to me and saying, Scott, have you known this? And some of it's, oh, Jesus. Oh, honestly, and I don't like swearing, but it's the worst case in Scottish legal history. And I'm asking, Elaine, all these feminists, middle class feminists, if you say a bad word to them, it's, oh, you're sexist. A woman called Corinne Mitchell, destroyed. Public opinion. Do you remember Cliff Richard? Cliff Richard's house got raided. Do you remember that? He wasn't in the home. The BBC formed a raid on his home, and they deemed it to be prejudicial towards any investigation into paedophilia. So the case is dropped and he gets compensation. Luke Mitchell, 14-year-old schoolboy, was taken from his home about, I think, 4 days after, maybe people have told me 4 or 5 days after Jodie was murdered, in handcuffs with the whole world media, Sky News, BBC, the Daily Record, the STV, everybody at his home. The police phoned him, we're going to arrest him, the only suspect. After 2 days in the murder investigation, the police told the media, we have no other suspects, we are not looking for anyone. So they take a 14-year-old boy who's going in for questioning, interrogation, in handcuffs for the whole world to see. They raid his home and they tell him that they found bottles of urine and they found this, and they're putting it in the press for 10 months. Cliff Richard got once. They raided Cliff Richard's home once, and they says it was prejudicial towards an investigation. Luke Mitchell had it for 10 months. They followed him to school. They followed him here. Now, I've been a subject to media interest. It's not very nice, by the way. They can take 100 photographs and you can be sitting smiling and they'll find one when you do this and they'll get a bad photograph. And that's what they've done to this boy. Irrespective of how you look at this, it's a real bad case. Jodie Jones, really brutal. But they treated that child like a terrorist. And Scottish society permitted it. Who spoke out? Have you ever heard anybody in Scotland ever speak out about Luke Mitchell? Sanjaleen, I must hear that.
Until I need to be honest, until I seen what you had done and we had spoke, I didn't even know the Facebook group, to be honest. And then once I spoke to yourself, and obviously through yourself, the Facebook group, and I try and keep in track now and then. There's other DM groups I'm part of that's cold case. Again,
yes.
We're doing this. People get in touch with you. So they're obviously, you need to watch what you're saying, right? So people get in touch with you. I need to be sure. I need to be sure that what I'm going to be putting out.
No, 100%.
There's a question to be asked.
Do you remember? Sorry, Peter. Scott, do you remember the Shirley MacLaine case? The fingerprints?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
The reason why they backed down with her was because she's a father who was a superintendent, right?
100%.
And what he was going to do was pull down the whole of fingerprinting in the whole of Scotland.
Aye.
And they would have to have opened up the jails and let people out that had been jailed on the basis of fingerprints.
Aye. And so
that was another one that they nearly got away with.
So with that in mind, what I was saying there is it's a case of I need to look at some things first of all, and I need to kind of check some sort of validity and look at things that hold a wee bit of weight, because or else I'll leave the person that I'm broadcasting open to
Aye,
a wee bit of heat, basically, right? I don't mind getting heat myself. That's how it goes. So with that in mind, and I've had a couple of messages off for you, Scott, that I've forgot to forward on.
Well, by the way, I've had some beauties. Yeah,
I've seen you replying to other ones on threads, so I'm presuming that you've seen them also. But some really well done and some like.
aye. Well, I've had some nice ones, but I've had some real belters.
I can imagine. I've seen a couple of the ones that aren't too nice as well, but it swings and roundabouts how it goes. Right, so let's bring up to speed a wee bit, right? Because we'll come back to Scott's book in a wee while, right? But I wanted to. I've kind of introduced some of the audience to Mrs. M, with some of our sketches that she does on what's that thing called? TikTok. Aye, that's the one. TikTok.
Are you on TikTok?
Well, I kind of I've had to set up a wee account so that I could identify potential.
TikTok is Twitter on video. You'll find anything on TikTok.
Aye.
Rubbish it. Listen, somebody.
There's some dodgy things.
Aye.
Dodgy
I
things.
seen
Right?
I seen the potty man with early baggy trousers and all that. So
Right. Oh, here we go. The secrets are coming out. The secrets are coming out.
Listen, he was a very good dancer. Please don't listen. He was a good football player, no? But early baggy trousers.
Spencer bags and Bowie bags.
Enough with the madness now, right? So Mrs. M, right? So had been trying to get a hold of Mrs. M, and I was lucky enough to get a hold of Mrs. M. And we done a wee interview. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a wee section of that interview, and we'll get your feedback for once you see it, we'll get your feedback. So just give me a wee second to set this up. Which is that one right there, and that one on the big screen. Right, so if I share this here, we should see Mrs. M shortly.
Yeah, but my glasses, really.
Aye, I'll share the sound here. Here we go. This is Mrs. M. Welcome along to Tweet Street Scotland Occupied, home of the satirical saltire. I'm Simon Bridges, aka Peter. And with me this morning, I've got a very special guest, somebody that I've really been trying to get a hold of for a long time, but I've been unfortunate so far. So I'd like to welcome along Mrs. M to the podcast. She should be. Oh, she's not there.
Who's Mrs. M?
Hello, Mrs. M. Oh. Hello, Mrs. M.
Yes.
Hi.
Hello there. So you must be the sound check manny for Andrew Neil.
Well, Mrs. M.
No, it's okay. I know what to do. So here we go. Are you ready? 1, 2, lick my shoe. 3, 4, cross the floor. 5, 6, Neil Handvisa.
Mrs. M. No, I'm not the sound check guy for Andrew Neil. I know I'm a sound guy, but I'm not a sound check guy. I'm Tweet Street. I'm the guy that does the interview. I'm Peter Simon Bridges, aka Peter.
Okay.
I'd like to thank you first of all for coming along. I know you're obviously very busy. So I'll get straight in about some questions. Liz Truss was at Perth the other night, and before she came up here, she said that you're best ignored. What do you make of that?
Well, I was
Mrs. M,
actually...
so the Perth protest, the Perth gathering for the Tories the other night, were there Liz Truss, Richie Sunak, and there was a protest there. What was your thoughts on the protest and the people that were protesting?
I really think that we're becoming a bit outdated in the way we protest. You know, I just think we could do something a bit more progressive.
All right, so you're not really too keen on traditional forms of protest then, Mrs. M?
Well, you know, all the screaming and shouting. You know, I really think that what we could do is actually throw rose petals at them. You know, sort of gently usher them into the Perth Convention Centre.
Right, I see, Mrs. M. I see. So, Mrs. M, I take it the rest of the day you'll be busy with committees and try to deal with the cost of living crisis and try to make life in general for Scots that are suffering that wee bit easier, especially this hard winter that we're expected to get.
No, I'm actually off to the butcher's just about now. To go, I need to get one of those great big enormous family pies. You know, the great big ones.
Right, are you having a big gathering?
No, it's for Ian down in London. He likes a pie. Yeah.
He likes a Freeport as well. What's your thoughts on Freeports, Mrs. M?
No, it's not pork. It's mostly steak. He likes steak pies are his favourite. He eats a lot of them. Yeah.
Right. I see.
No. Oh, look. I'm so sorry, Mr. Cinnamon. I'm being told I've double booked here, and so I wonder if we could maybe reschedule. Maybe
that would be excellent. I would love that. How would we do it? Would I email you or what?
Well, your people can contact my people, and we could do it that way. Yes. Yes.
Right.
Okay.
That would be great.
Right.
Thanks very much, Mrs. M.
Okay. Bye now. Bye.
Listen, Mrs. M, you have a lovely day now.
Don't tell me what to do.
Oh. Gone just like 600 grand.
Right, so we'll pause that there, right, and we'll start back Shirley now. What do we think of Mrs. M? Eileen, we'll come to you first. Ladies first.
That's sexist.
I don't know what to say. She's just like a bad kind of version of Kirsty Wark. Right, with better hair.
But
I mean, honest to God, right, I saw some of the clips, you know, that happened at Perth kind of thing. And what it was a disparate groups, right? There was ex-miners there. There was socialist workers there. There was some folk for Alba. There was some folk for the SNP. There was some folk that were just totally pissed off, right, with the Tories, right? And they're getting it was a setup, and they're getting their knickers in a twist because somebody said Tory scum, right? Now, 2 days later, have a look at Manchester. And Manchester were really, it was a case of head Perth, hold my beer. You ought to see what they were doing, right?
Aye.
And Nicola and the BBC and everybody else have decided to tone police us. They are going to have a code of conduct, right, of how we will behave ourselves when we speak respectfully to them, right? They can suck my booby. Right, I'm telling you, it's just not going to happen, right? They are not getting control in the narrative in this anymore, right? They are just going to have to start taking the abuse that they deserve. When I'm getting told that electricity and gas bills are going to go up to £4,000 a year by December this year, and some poor guy, right, and it's normally a guy, right, a single guy, right, is on £77 a week universal credit. That's £4,014 a year is his total income, and his electricity and gas is going to be £4,000. What they're doing in this country is corporate manslaughter. That's what they're doing. They have declared war on the working classes in this country, right?
Yeah.
And I, for one, right, I'm going to fight back with every legitimate means that I have. And if that means them having to run a gauntlet and hear what we've got to say about them really out of their bubble, well, they can bloody take it. If they're taking £86,000 a year in wages, and God knows how much that they're taking, you know, for expenses, and they're not going to be scratching themselves for their gas or their electricity or food, right? They can listen to what we've got to say. So get it up them.
right, excellent, Eileen. I totally agree with that. But that means you've got nothing to say when we get to that section now, right? Because we're not at that section yet. I was asking you what you thought of Mrs. M. my interview with Mrs. M. But that's cool. It's
She was polite, but as I says to you, she was like a bad version of Kirsty Ward with worse hair. You know, it's
right,
just
right.
better hair. Better
do-
hair.
Do you know who she's supposed to be mimicking?
No.
Right, then we've
No.
got a problem. Then we've got a problem. Right, okay. Right, so I'm going to come to Porty because Porty's seen like a snippet of this before it was fully edited. Porty, what did you think of that section with Mrs. M?
It's very funny, and I think it's a good depiction of Nicola Sturgeon, to be honest.
Oh, I wonder if Mrs. M would mean something else. Right, right. There's no to come
If
from
you'd
Mrs.
said demons, listen, if you'd said demon spawn for hell, I would have got it.
Right. Oh, I thought that kind of it looks a wee bit like somebody, and the name kind of gives it away, and the fact that what we were talking about would have suggested who we were speaking to. Right.
Listen,
so
your
Scott,
Mrs. M is far more articulate than Nicola Sturgeon.
right, and see
Honestly,
that's what's putting it off. That's what's putting us off. Scott,
I
I'm
know.
coming to you now.
What you get to Nicola Sturgeon is not valid. Not valid.
Not valid.
Woman, you're not valid.
Right,
That's
What
all
did
she
I think
knows.
of Mrs. M?
Aye.
She wasn't the bonniest.
No.
No, even seaweed would take her out.
Right.
And I'm sure, listen, they're
Take the
beautiful
bag
looks.
over the head.
And yes, well, listen, seaweed, no, even seaweed would take her out, right? And I'm sure at some stage she'll get to marry a guy that likes Cotton Hill.
Right. So
I don't know what you're saying, Jim. That's the type of woman she strikes me as. Now,
right.
if seaweed would take you, and the only person you can marry is a man who walks Cotton Hill. Oh, listen, so I'm not very keen on Mrs. M, if I'm being honest. I'm not very keen on Mrs. M.
Right,
Be
well,
totally honest with yourself.
there's more to come from Mrs. M later on, right?
Oh, Jesus.
Right.
I hear she was in conversation with the French ambassador.
Right,
Yes.
so right, let's
You
not
must-
let's
Junior
not
Pierre.
waste.
No,
Let's
I
not
hope
waste.
it was the
That
criminal
was
Hold
in the
on,
Balmoral.
wait a minute. Whoa, hold on a minute here. Let me control this. Right, whoa.
I know.
Right.
You're not.
Stop skipping away ahead because all she's doing is jumping away through everything that's planned. So we'll try and conduct this in an orderly fashion. Thanks very
And her
much.
face is shut.
Right. Right. So we're going to now talk about Perth, right, in particular, right? So Eileen, you came out with some cracking versions of, well, some cracking words, and a lot of the things that I agree with. I was at Perth the other day. I want to talk about Edinburgh first of all, because on Monday, Porty, you and I went along. Well, I went along to try and see Anne, who done a one-woman protest the week before outside the government buildings there, Colonial House, there, and another woman joined her. So I thought, well, I'm going to go along in the off chance that they would be back there this week. And Anne wasn't there. She's 85. She's partially sighted. She's got hearing issues. But she inspired. She put a lot of people to shame actually be going and doing that, and then nobody else was there. So I thought I'll go along just no chance that she was there. And then there was more people there. Porty was there, and others. David Wellham was there.
Ronnie.
How long before that'll get
Ronnie.
banned?
Well, I don't know. That was the thing. However, there's got to be an official opening to that place really soon. Really soon. On a Thursday, really soon.
Aye,
Right? By Alistair Jack, who's going to be doing the official opening. It was supposed to be March. However, it was cancelled due to something or other, but it was cancelled anyway. And it was put off to this date, not too far in the future, towards the end of the month. You'll get it anyway. Look on my last video, it tells you on there. So we'll announce it later on. But if you want to go to that and jeer, fair dues. So other people are talking about Butte House that I'm reading on Twitter and things like that today. But again, It's all just a bubble. It's all just a Twitter bubble until somebody comes out and then says, you shouldn't be doing that. That's absolutely terrible. And then it goes for a bubble to something crazy, right? It goes crazy. Which brings us on to Perth. So I was at Perth the other day. Just to basically show my disdain to the Tories, as were a lot of other people that were there. And as is the usual, and we'll go on to what's been reported on social media, but as is the usual, you go to a protest about feeling aggrieved about something. And in this case, it's about getting governed by paymasters for London, and folk that backed a liar, backed somebody that says let the bodies pile high in their thousands, stuck by them. So the choice of the two, who's got to be running the show next, and then you've got the colonizer in the media as like representatives, the colonizers representatives in the media, sorry, who covered up for the likes of Savile, who are covered up for, again, if you believe the allegations of Westwood, who have covered up an awful lot, right? These institutions that have ran Scottish people to the fucking grun and beyond, right? And let's see when I started in recording that interview with Mrs. M. I'm going to let you in a wee secret here, right? I started recording an interview with Mrs. M the other day and I had to stop, right? Because I broke down greeting. Because somebody else died, right? Somebody else close to me, right? And when I say close to me, like not a family member, but somebody close enough to kind of go, they're away. And you've got arseholes, I'm going to call them arseholes, saying, oh, mind what you say to these people.
You use language like that.
As they make you beg for the oppression that they're putting you under, to say, oh, listen, I'm sorry for you having to put us under this oppression, but going to stop it, going to fucking stop it. But no, you've got arseholes saying, oh, don't speak to them like that. Don't speak to them like this. Don't do this. Don't do that. There's folk dying. Scottish people dying.
Yeah, do you know who got to me there?
First Minister of Scotland. You're backing the Tories and the fucking BBC out of Scottish people's lives.
Exactly.
Most SNP did. And Peter Kenny, one I got to me most, and by the way, I'm not to Twitter or they gave her it. And then she's my MP. I'm just going to say this. I'm sorry to ask Karen about SNP. See, Joanna Cherry's the best of the bunch, right? And she once called people at the borders of Scotland waving a saltire flag abhorrent. Like, I can have conversations where with men walking along the street, James Rennie raping babies was unfortunate. Middle class ivory tower, 85 grand a year, 240 grand a year, expenses for her and her pals. Now, every SNP MP employs their friends. I've researched that a wee bit and I was going to start writing up on it, but I didn't. I got sidetracked with Luke. They all employ their pals. So they're all in ivory towers and they come out after Perth. They see when I was in the SNP, that John Nicholson. Now, so they, according to them, if you call Cook to BBC or scum or Tory or a prick or whatever, they're up in arms. How dare you, right? We want a code of conduct. You can go about touching up laddies. You can go about showing your fucking, sorry, your penis to 14-year-old laddies and they're protecting and promoting you. And then they're telling you 3 weeks later, you're scum because you're shouting at Tories. People are dying, you're bang on, people are going no food, no water, they've got their 240 grand fucking expense a year to feed them and their pals, and you're scum for calling a Tory scum. There is not, listen, there is not, well, listen, I'm on my fucking head. There is not one person in that SNP, Joanna Cherry's got morals and integrity when it comes to women. And on that issue, she's, listen, faultless. The attacks that she gets, oh, listen, about her. On every other issue, she's as far removed for the Scottish people as what Boris Johnson is. All right, she's got more integrity and she's a wee bit more clever, but she's in as much an ivory tower. She went to one of the most posh, a Scottish female version of Eton. She's in Fountain Bridge, 50 yards for her office. I'm telling you, people are living in squalor and tenements. in Western Hills, and a couple of days later she must have cottoned on and she was at the community flat in Western Hills. These people are in ivory towers telling people who are starving, no jobs, no electricity, no gas, to behave themselves, don't raise your voice. See that Josh Maney, what's he, him and his sister, the guy that hangs about the toilets, ladies' toilets, what's his name, Josh Maney, him and his sister in the paper this week.
Josh Aaron Maney.
Yes, likes hanging about toilets, taking photographs, terrorising women. Him and his sister are now setting up bogus companies. They're all employed by each other. MPs all employ their pals. Please look at this. Every single MP office, by the MPs, SNP MPs are useless. Mary Black says, as an MP, she's no good to her constituents. They've got an MSP for that. She only answers 28% of her calls. I bet they're all LGBT and trans friendly. She goes 50% to the Westminster, and her expenses are £240,000 a year. Now they're telling us not to shout at Tories. Listen, my dad was a militant miner. I grew up with Thatcher. Fucking my dad getting beat on picket lines at 16 when I was a joiner, so I'm aware of that. Sturgeon is worse than Thatcher. I grew up with this. And look, Joanna Cherry's the only one in the SNP that's got any integrity. The rest are cowards. That Tommy Shepherd now standing on a picket line. Did you see his 2015 speech in Westminster? And they're now telling us, don't shout at Tories. Oh, that's terrible. What a terrible way to treat politics. These politicians are thieves, liars. They're stealing from us. They're parasitical. They're perverts. They're everything. Every single one in that MSP are cowards. SNP are fully cowards, perverts, liars, thieves. And then they tell you go to Perth, well, you can't speak like that. They're worse than Tories. Now, I'm an independent, or I'm not like that.
God, I'm going to tell you, and I'm really, really sorry to say this. One of my boys phoned me the other night in tears, right, to tell me that was another school friend who'd hung himself.
I've had a few.
32 years old, right? And I've got to tell you, that is the 7th boy that was in his class at school that has killed themselves since March 2020. That's 7 boys out of the same area, same classes. I knew every single one of those lads, right? They were in and out my house, right? They were at school, right? The back door was open. The boys would just bring them in. Somebody'd open a pot of jam. Pieces would get made. Mum, where's the juice, kind of thing. Every one of those boys, and that's 7 of them, 32 years old, dead.
Listen, see the man.
And nobody cares. Do you know what? Nobody cares.
Yeah, you're bang on.
These young working class men in this country, they are devalued. Right? They're told they're scum. They're told they're of no value.
You're all sitting here and we're all Scottish nationalists. Well, I'm going to tell you, I've got Culloden tattooed on my back and everything. See, right now, the only politician or man that I've seen involved in politics, I would give it, he's English. His name's Mike Lynch.
Aye, that's my hero.
Yes.
I'd have his babies.
Listen, Mike Lynch is an Englishman, right? I've got more pals.
Mike Lynch is an Irishman. The fighting men to John McGlenn.
Now, I've got more in common with that man than I've got with anybody in the SNP.
Yep.
Pete Wishart is my enemy. By the way, Nicola Sturgeon, don't get me started on her. She's the biggest Judas I've ever seen in Scottish politics. British politics. Thatcher didn't stab her in. I've got more in common with Mike Lynch and RMT workers. Yep. And then that Tommy Shepherd just standing waving a wee flag. Honestly, if I was there, I'd like to lick him. They're just Judas. They're parasites. They jump on, oh, look at this. This is a nice wee cause. It'll bring us a wee bit of popularity and we'll know. Horrible people. They're just real horrible. And they can't see it. They just see it. Oh, you swore at
grandstanders, carpet bagging grandstanders.
Aye, horrible. Every one of them. Every one of them.
What have you made this week? What's your thoughts on the week? Because you tuned in. You tuned into the live stream I done for Perth.
I followed your live stream, but your battery ran out.
Aye.
So I didn't really catch it until after the event.
Right. And what did you make of? What you've heard since?
To be honest with you, watching the James Cook thing, it was pantomime. You could see it unrolling. No. And I knew what was going to come later. That whoever it was in the crowd that was supposedly harassing him was going to prove to be somebody he either knew or it was going to be a unionist.
100%, 100%.
Well, I mean,
100%.
again, there's that's getting disputed. It was an ex-miner who didn't agree with the miners coverage for the BBC, and that's why he was calling the BBC
Right.
scum. And everybody's got a right to protest in Scotland. And you might not like some of the words that you hear. However, you've not walked a mile in that person's shoes, right?
Yes.
And whatever your protest might be, it might be a lot milder than the person standing next to you who might have lost somebody. It might have been battered fuck at you after police standing at a picket line in the 80s. It could have been anything like that, right? So
They are scum, though. They are scum. They're sitting there, like Scott says, in their towers.
Aye.
They're earning 80 odd grand a year. They're getting, what was it, 250 grand a year in expenses. Plus they're on this committee and they're on that committee. And then they're getting a lot of money for the lobbying. And they're reducing the working classes to nothing. In a few months' time, we're going to be starving. It's a case of, do you put money in the meter, so to speak, or do you eat? It's wrong. You know, it's time. I hate to say it, but it's time for the people to rise. It has been for a long time, but people need to rise now. You can't be living with this.
No.
They're trying to kill us all.
Aye. I don't see any difference between I don't see any difference between people that are purposefully living off the back of people and telling them that they need to shut up and just take it a wee bit more than the situation that we're in at the minute. And when I say we, I'm talking about as a country, the people of Scotland and it.
To my mind, to my mind, when the SNP, the likes of Nicholson and Wishart and Sturgeon and all the rest of it, and come out what they said, it's shut up, starve.
Yes.
Ah,
Yes. Yep, that's it.
Is it? Aye, it is.
Just not putting up with that.
Aye, listen, if Mike Lynch was in Scotland, apart from Tommy Shepherd trying to make himself look good, oh look, I'm a man of the people now after 8 years of being a parasite, Mike Lynch would get shut down. If Mike Lynch was all Mick McGarkey now standing up in Scotland and speaking the same language as he speaks, the SNP would hate him.
Aye.
Listen, if Mike Lynch was standing beside me when he gets shut down, I'll tell you.
Hey, that's another show, but that's another show. Right, but here's the thing, right? I've said this before. I think there's 1,000 Mick Lynches in Scotland.
Oh,
There's
100%.
more than that in Scotland.
Yep.
But
Big time.
you don't get the right people asking the right questions, and you get certain people that go, well, I'm not really good at talking about shit like that, but what I can do is I can do this, I can do that, I can do the next thing. I'm not really that good at bigging themselves up.
Here's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
How many MSPs, roughly, are MSPs because they're women, gay, transsexual, bisexual, not because they're gifted or talented or nothing. They just wave a wee fucking rainbow flag and they've got a job. If that doesn't work, they just sleep with an MSP and they're related to another MSP. They're not
Or the casting couch.
Yes.
I sometimes get mixed up between the Hollywood casting couch and the Hollywood casting couch. You know what I mean?
So why are people?
You must throw yourself on Mick Lynch's casting couch a couple of minutes ago. Give yourself a break.
Listen, why do working class people not get? Why do working class not get elected? Just because working class, we have no representation, none. Tell me one MSP that stands up and says, I want to defend the working class. None.
Well,
middle class.
They are a political class, right? I remember back in the day, I'm talking about the early 80s, and I used to be a lay member on Glasgow City Council, right? North Area Management Committee, right? And I used to see guys, there was like a guy called James McLean, there was another guy, I can't remember his name, but it's really nice. He was a deputy in charge of housing, right? And he worked as a joiner. And he used to come in at lunchtime, right? And he'd a clean shirt and a pair of trousers that he kept in there kind of thing, and he'd get a wash, right, before he went into the meeting, right? People had real jobs. Councillors had real jobs. They were plumbers, they were joiners, They'd
Listen.
worked in factories. Right?
Oh,
Mick, what was his name? Mine was a speaker. Michael Martin.
Yes.
MP, he's dead now, God rest him. He
Right.
was a sheet metal worker. Right?
Listen, the
The
working
people
class.
like that
Right.
could represent the working classes. Now go straight from school to university. They do PPE. They go and they do an unpaid, what do you call it? For the work for an MP or an MSP like for nothing, right?
Internship or whatever it is.
Internship. Whose Wayne can afford to do that, right? And from there, they step right into a seat.
Listen,
Right?
do
What do
you
they know? They go from school, uni, right, to an internship and into politics.
Do you know what they think of the working class in Scotland? The SNP. They think Mary Black is working class and she represents us. She's got a social. I know she's got a social science degree. Ralston, you're bang on Ralston, a social science degree, and I'm not going to mock anybody with a social science degree. No, he was a headmaster, by the way, made his money in private education for Ralston, but they think Mary Black is working class and represents us. There is not one, I've looked through the Scottish Parliament, not one person have I ever heard speak in defence of working class. They close the attainment gap to make it inclusive and progressive. Nonsense. Scotland's a wee backward country, and I hate saying that. If Mike Lynch stood the morn for British Prime Minister, I wouldn't vote for independence. And I hate saying that.
What? I nearly choked there, mate. Fucking hell, you can't just come out with shit like that. What? Right, is it right? No, I'll revisit that, right? Because I'm getting, now that that's come out your mouth.
An independent Scotland with Nicola Sturgeon, John Nicholson, Peter Murrell, Alex Smith. Oh, Jesus.
That wouldn't happen after independence, Scott. That wouldn't happen.
See, that's the thing. After independence, you get every SNP become defunct. Everybody becomes defunct.
Who says they don't change the rules? Who says they don't change the rules?
Again,
half of them would be in jail. Half of them would be in jail.
Right, let's go away. The facts as we know them now, as they are, and as they, unless the rules change, right? Then that's like upon independence.
Who'd have thought for 1 minute they banned us, right, from protesting outside the Scottish Parliament in a space that was specifically designed for people to protest.
Right,
and
exactly. So with that, right, take that on board. As with things as they are at the minute, right? We need to be aware that the potentially a double cross, a double cross, a fucking double cross, right? So you need to have your eyes open to these kind of things, right? But what you also need to have your eyes open to, right? And I'm going to show some footage for Perth, right? But there was people there. I'm building up to something here. So you'll just need to go with this, right? There was people at Perth on Tuesday to protest, and I'd say I was going to go and try and do a wee bit of coverage so I could maybe put it on a podcast. Right, that was my aims for going. And somebody got in touch with me and says, "Listen, I can't really drive the now. Is there any chance you could pick me up and take me there?" And I says, "Aye." And then somebody else says, "Oh, if you're going there, have you got space for somebody else?" And I says, "Well, aye," because I know that these people are got the same sort of intentions as me. They're independence minded, they're independent supporters, and I've known them for a wee while, so I didn't mind sharing the car and sharing the journey and sharing the laugh and everything else. And we had a great wee time, right? But there was some of them there trying to pass the message for Salvo and claim me right. And there was other people there just trying to shout at Tories, and there was people just doing both, right? Our wee group were shouting at Tories and talking about Salvo to anybody that would listen, right? And talking about claim the right to anybody that would listen. So here's a wee bit of footage that I caught on the live stream for your enjoyment. One of these women's my namesake. She's got the surname the same as me. I don't think we're related. However, just goes to show that look, we don't give a fuck. Right, so that's the claim of right thing there, right? So I'm going to just drag this along, right? Because the bit I want to show you is this wee funny bit just along. Well, it's not funny. It's quite is it that? There we go. Right, well, so we'll play it for here. Bit of shouting and screaming that going on in the background that you can hear.
Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you!
Wait a minute, it's a lying a wee bit, it's a lying a wee bit.
Shame on you! 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 Shame on you!
Scum! 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 Camera works really short, doesn't it? Scum! Scum!
Scum! Scum! Dirty scumbags! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you! I think the enemy calling! Go home! Go home to England, you scumbags!
Right, that wasn't the bit I was wanting you to hear, right? That was the wrong bit. Here it's here. Sure. Aye, here it's there. Here it's there. Right. There it's there. You to the post. It's the woman there. Right, we'll stop back there. Just on that, fuck the Tories, right? So, the bit I was trying to draw attention to, right? So you'd seen the woman there with the claim of right banner, right? And they were on the ground. They were at the other side of the barriers. And then they made a burst to get through the police line there, along with some of the others. That young lassie that ran by at the end that says F the Tories, she made a burst as well. So that was featured on the news, that wee clip of them wrestling with the police, with the two women. And they're representing Salvo and trying to pass the message they claim are right. However, one of the people, I wasn't with him, by the way, I wasn't with him. One of the people that I was with that was also trying to pass a message about claiming right was the person that was caught up in the what's turned into a bit of a storm. Was the person that was asking James Cook about if he'd heard about the claim of right. Farah went ways and we brought it back and that. So
Farah
Hamid, yep. So she was asking James about the claim of right when the heckler at the side was shouting and screaming everything else, right? And to her mind, what she said to me on the way home, she says, I was trying to make sure that he could hear me because I couldn't hear myself for the guy shouting at the top of me, and asked him again if he knew about the claim of right. And well, I think somebody commented about that on the video that he'd already said that, about the claim of right. However, she was making sure that he'd heard her and was trying to ask him again or what have you. And then that video get a wee bit of I don't know, a bit of bad rep, didn't it? Would you agree? A bit of bad rep?
Definitely.
Aye. Justifiable?
No.
No. Scott?
I'm an extremist, but I don't care really what I think when I'm watching on it. Honest.
It's
Very
It's-
good.
it's mad, Scott. Honest to God, I think it's mad, right? Because I think we've got a right to protest. I think we've got a right to be pissed off. We still at this point been in the union when things have been the way that they were, Brexit, everything else, even before Brexit.
Peter, we are fighting for our lives,
Yeah,
right? If people are distressed and upset, and the only way that they can articulate themselves and their anger and their fears and their anxieties and everything else is by swearing, then so be it.
Mhm.
That's just the
Sticks-
way it's got to be.
we've all heard this.
Sticks and
before.
stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me.
Aye.
This lot ought to grow up.
Aye.
So,
They've declared war on us. They've declared war on their own people in Scotland. These ones that think they're better than us, that
Aye.
they're going to tell us how we're going to run our lives. Right? They've stood by there. They have allowed the Tories, Labour, everybody else to cut benefits
Oh, no,
to
no, no.
people that have got the least.
Oh, listen, nah.
Right? The sick, the
Nah,
unemployed. Right?
See the
It's
protests, they should have been at
criminal.
Butte House. Butte
Yes.
House did protest.
aye,
No,
well,
yes.
Definitely.
to be fair, the Tories were in Perth. I also agree that there should be protests at Butte House, and especially given the fact that we're getting told no, just to sit down, shut up, and take it. Like, ease the squeeze. Like, no, there's
Ease the
ease the
squeeze.
squeeze.
That
Right?
must have been an American PR company
Aye.
that came up with that.
But here's
And now they've only got £145,000 left in their fighting fund.
I just want to finish on this part with this here. The point I was drawing attention to there, like, there was two white women had made a burst to try and get through the police lines, saying about claim of rights, and allegedly the bad spin on claim of rights came from an Asian Scot who was asking a white man a question.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Now, yous fucking work out what the problem is here, folks.
I never knew
Because I think
that.
I know what it is.
I know what it is.
I think I know what it is. But what makes it even worse, right? And I'm going all in here. I'm going all in here. What makes it even worse is the people that person, that Asian Scot was there representing, took influence off of other people that haven't backed fully Salvo and asked them to take videos down and that showed that. But that was just a slap. That was like a kick in the balls for me, right? Because I volunteer my time and effort to help out people to try and get a message out, right? I volunteer, and I volunteered like a lot of time for the Alba party in the lead up to the elections there. And what's coming across, right? I was supposed to do an event on Thursday there, an Alba Equalities event on Thursday, but I cancelled it because I can't, in good faith, sit and push a message the Alba Equalities team are trying to push when privately they're doing the opposite, right? I'm not a hypocrite, right? I done this because I'm fucking sick of the establishment of who I was employed with, and so pissed off that I'm prepared to do this, right? I'm prepared to do this piss here and take the risk, right? So don't think that your 1-year-old party that's still in teething problems, right? And you'll treat us working class people, right? Because this is the way it is. Oh, shut up. You shut up. Don't put this one's message out. Don't put Eileen's message out. Eileen, don't put Eileen's message out, right? That's no equalities, because it's our voices that people are fucking wanting to hear, and it's our voices that you're trying to fucking hijack, cunts. Honest to God, man. I broke down greeting to somebody the other day because of people like, oh, I represent this, push this message, but shut up while you're doing it. It's just the Tory light version. That's all it is.
Yes.
That's all it fucking is.
I kind of agree with you, Peter, to be honest.
Scun up. Absolutely scun up, because I didn't think these people would do that to their aim. And I'm getting told to shut up about it. No.
I've been at Alba meeting, one, I done it, and I just seen the basis of SNP, how Hamza and all that got jobs. Not because they're Asian or anything, I'm no president, I don't care. Hamza Yusuf, Alec, now I love Alex Abbott, he's the only guy I ever fought for independence, but Alba starting off exactly how SNP started. Rich Asians coming in, the guy that jumped to Alba into SNP a week later because Alec. Hamza Yusuf stood up in the Scottish Parliament and slagged us off for being white.
Aye.
White.
Yep.
Scottish. Yep. Now, Hamza Yusuf's in a position for two reasons. He went to Hutchinson Grammar Bio, he's a dunce. Please listen to me, he's a dunce, I researched him.
His mum and dad should have got their money back.
Yes, 100%. Listen, he's a dunce. He's a failed law student. He went to university and failed in law. But because daddy had money and he played the race card, he's never a government minister. Now, we'll go back to, I don't want to get unpassionate. Independence. Me personally, it's nearly dead for me because I was going to take another 10 years to try and figure something. The SNP have got no spirit, no bones. How are we going to get independence? They claim their rights as legally. I've been watching Roddy recently and reading them, and it makes sense. Everything can be challenged in law. But I see independence at 30 years away. And by the time 30 years ago, everybody at the SNP, I'm not interested in independence. Europe. So we're not going to get controlled by bureaucrats in London. We're going to get controlled by bureaucrats in Europe and bureaucrats in Scotland. Now, if Mike Lynch was standing for British Prime Minister tomorrow, and John Nicholson or Peter Murrell, or that 18 to 30 club rep, they're all publicly educated. They're all perverts. They're all sneaks. They're all thieves. They're all... What's the difference? Listen, it's real hard for me to say. I've been a patriot all my life, voted them all my life. And after I seen what Hamza Yusuf done to the boy Alan Marshall, I started looking at them all. The SNP with Sturgeon, Nicholson, they're Tories.
Tartan Tories, my mother called them.
They're not even tartan. See, before they used to be called tartan Tories because they're a wee bit Scottish. They're not even Scottish. Listen, Joanna Cherry's the best in the SNP. Everybody agrees on that. She's got integrity, right? But she's in an ivory tower. She's so far removed to people in Scotland. She's got dual nationality. She's half Irish, half Scots, which I'm not going to complain about. Fair play. She's trying to save Britain for itself in Brexit when she beat Boris. She never tried to free. She saved Britain for Britain. Now, she sits with Harriet Harman in the Westminster government looking after Britain. None of them have got a fight for independence. Not one. Tell me one person in the SNP that you've ever heard trying to defend Scotland. None.
Two of them, and they're now in Alba.
Listen, Kenny McCaskill's a gentleman. Neil Hanley, I agree with you. But you're right, they've got two. And I hope I'm wrong here, but there'll not be MPs at the next election because the SNP will vote them out. The SNP will gang up on them, push them out, so it'll all be another John Nicholson. Oh,
I don't.
Honestly, I'm heartbroken though. I don't even. If Mike Lynch was the more a British MP for Prime Minister, I hate to tell you this, but I would go for Mike Lynch. I've got more in common with Mike Lynch and the guys in the RMT than I've got with anybody in the SNP.
A similar scenario, apart from Corbyn's standoff on Scottish independence. I agreed with a hell of a lot of what the man was doing and what he was saying, what he intended to.
Aye, renationalising all the utilities.
Aye.
That frightened the shit out of them.
Aye, but
Right.
there's
Do you know that they're taking 2.6 billion to renationalise? 2.6 billion would have renationalised. Right.
And we spent 37 billion on a track and fucking trace. My friend.
Aye, and we've got no receipts. We don't know who got it.
Exactly.
We don't know what it was spent on. Nobody can tell us.
No paper trail.
And see with free ports and green ports, right? Unless we put a stop to this in the next 6 months, there's going to be nothing left in Scotland. Nothing.
And I hate to tell you
this green ports, free ports, these charter cities, it is one of the worst things that could ever happen to us. And Brexit wasn't just about taking back control. Brexit, first and foremost, was number one. The regulations that the EU wanted to do about people putting their money in tax havens, right? They weren't going to be allowed to hide their money in tax havens. They had to declare it and pay their taxes on it. But the second part of it is what's coming right down the railroads right now, and that is free ports, green ports, right, and these charter cities. We're going back to feudalism, and they're going to have us in serfdom and servitude for the rest of our lives unless we stop it.
Listen, that's the sad truth. Look at Edinburgh, our capital city. It's owned by underbelly, fucking English shoes. Listen, come to Edinburgh one day, Pierre, I'll tell you what I walk. There is under the SNP, there is no communities left in Edinburgh. Every community in Edinburgh has been shut down.
I was going to say
an SNP government.
I was just going to say, Scott, we were.
No, but Glasgow's just done. No, but Glasgow's just done, right? And getting their green targets for taking down emissions. I can't tell you how many taxi drivers have been put off the road, right, because their cars aren't young enough, right, for these emissions. So how are the disabled Waynes going to get to school? The Waynes that used to get taken to school by taxi with somebody, an adult, supervising them in the taxi so that they could get to school. How are these Waynes going to get to school now? Has nobody thought about that?
Can I give you a very profound question, because he's wrong? What is Scotland now? Scotland 2000, this is 2022. Yeah, look about my house, I can tell you Scottish history, what's Scottish? What's been Scotland?
A vehicle to serve Westminster.
Yes.
No, listen. What is it even to be Scottish? A bit of land that's owned by English. And their politicians are more British than fucking the British. I can't, honestly, I've got a pal that told me all this 4 years ago. I was following him. Me and him, every time we went to walk, I couldn't do that. Stop telling me that. They said, Scott, you've got to explain to me what Scottish is. They don't teach Scottish history in schools. They say it's bad. You've got Black History Month. You've got LGBT fucking week every week, right? So what is Scotland? It's owned by English.
A colony.
It's owned by English, controlled by the English, and our politicians are scum. So I want to know what Scotland is.
I can go back to the early 1960s, right? And to speak in a Glaswegian accent in Lowland Scots, it was beaten out of you. And I mean beaten out of you, right? You were told, speak the Queen's English, you stupid child. Don't be so common, right? And you get belted for it. And I can remember seeing a map up on the wall, and it didn't say Scotland. It said North Britain. It actually said North Britain, and that was back in the early 60s.
I didn't even know what Scotland is anymore.
Right, well, Porty.
Oh, it's a colony.
Right, Porty, what's Scotland? You tell us, what's Scotland to you?
It's an English colony.
Yes,
Eileen.
it is an English colony, and we can say claim our rights and salvo and anything like. I am now absolutely convinced there were 178 countries throughout the world that the British Empire raped, pillaged, took everything they wanted from them, who are now no longer part of the British Empire. Many of them took their independence from them. I think we've got to go for UDI.
And prosper.
And I think that we would find friends. All we've got to do is get one of them to recognise us. We can go to the UN. That's all we need. One country to recognise our claim of unilateral independence. We no longer want to be colonised. We want to look after ourselves. We want our own resources. We want control over our own resources. Do you know that there's a big bloody pipeline, a water pipeline that's going down the side of the M74? They're stealing our water.
Exactly.
That we pay for and giving it to private companies down south. And what are they doing? They're shitting into the rivers. There's notices up everywhere, but they can't even swim anymore. Nothing into the infrastructure, and they take everything out in bonuses.
Aye, well, that's obviously privatisation. How it works, it's privatised so that all their shareholders get all the benefits.
Yeah.
Everybody on the land gets nothing. Somebody's asked me, what do you think of
try that one again. An emergency declaration of independence, not a unilateral declaration of independence.
Emergency, I don't care. I don't care how it's done.
No,
do
yeah,
it.
but it needs
We've
done.
got 6 months. We have
Oh.
got 6 months, I'm telling you. Right? I'm getting the popcorn out.
Ah,
Right?
well,
Because
listen,
let me tell you, see once it started down in England, right?
No,
They
hey,
think
listen.
that Tottenham rights and things like that was bad. You wait to see what's going to happen down there.
No,
It's going to kick off down there first. It's going to kick
Aye,
off
it
down there
will.
first.
Listen,
Well,
I'm
England's going to go like that. Hold my beer.
Well, it needs to kick off in there first so that we've got any chance.
Listen, I hate to put a damper on you, but I'm going to wait at 8:30. A damper on Scottish independence. I hate to. Look at Brexit. Look at Brexit. They're blaming Brexit every day. We've left Europe. Britain can't survive on its own because we're on Brexit. Brexit's a bad idea to some people. Our politicians didn't want Brexit, so they didn't fight or they didn't even try for what happened to Britain after we left Europe. What's going to happen to Scotland if you just say, well, it never happened? I hate telling you, I hate saying that because it broke my heart for 4 years.
You'll have to go in the garden shed and get your pitchfork, Scott, because that's what's coming.
But listen, Craig, I want to tell you something, that's probably right. And to break away from Britain, break away
martial law and curfews. It'll be martial law and
That's what's
curfews
coming,
is what they'll try and do it is.
Listen,
Rather than let
I hate seeing it. I can never ever see it in my lifetime. I can never see independence, and we were betrayed and sold out by Iran.
Aye.
I said, what's Scotland famous for? Apart from whiskey and their tartans and a beautiful gun, what's it famous? Betrayal.
Aye.
Betrayal.
Yes.
Burns are parcel of rogues, right?
That parcel of rogues in a nation.
A parcel of rogues. It's in Holyrood now. Make Burns' parcel of rogues look decent. Sturgeon and Morrell, Angus Robertson, MI5, everybody knows that. He's a British state agent. That Alan
Harvey.
Imagine sending, genuinely, listen, I'm a Scot. Imagine sending these people to represent you on the world stage. They've got embassies now all over the world for all the parties. Stuart McDonald, 1830 Club, he's got a medal for Ukraine for having LGBT parties.
Yes, Harvey.
Aye, right now we'll send Morrell's, McDonald, Alan Smith, and or Nicholson and everybody else all over the world to represent Scotland. I'm ashamed of these people. And again, if you put Mike Lynch sit beside all them in the SNP, I'm going with Mike Lynch. I ain't saying that. I wanted it all my life, but it'll never happen. That's only my opinion. I don't want to rain on a parade. It'll never happen. So it's Sturgeon, whether she done it deliberately. My opinion, she did. Look what 2014, I seen Sturgeon. There was thousands in that stand. There was. You couldn't get 300 in the festival. See her. She's destroyed everything that Alex Hammond built. She dismantled. Her, Angus Robertson. Angus Robertson's the worst. He went to the NEC, the SNP NEC, and he changed every rule. He put all the power to the politicians and take away from the members. He done that. Him and Morrell. Now, he's going to be the next anointed. When Sturgeon goes, it's looking, well, your next leader is Alan Smith, Jesus honest. Me and Porty grew up in a place in Edinburgh where men like Alan Smith dominated children, or a better word. They walk about Colton Hall and they used to they what they did to children. I didn't want that pair. I didn't care if he wears a salt tire or tartan. What, that doesn't matter to me. And so if you're offering me Angus Robertson or somebody like Lynch, I would have to go with Lynch. I wouldn't want Angus Robertson or Peter Nicholson or that 18 to 30 Club. Imagine that representing that country.
Scott, does anybody think, have you seen what's been done to Margaret Ferrier, right? Because she wouldn't buy into the LGBT, right? She wouldn't buy into it, right? Nobody said anything about Prince Charles flying over infected with COVID with all his staff, up to Balmoral. And staff getting into the town and passing COVID through there. Then they think that they're trying to get rid of her and keep her seat warm for somebody like Robertson.
Again, she knew she was infected with COVID and she's going on trains, she's going to hairdressers, she's going to church. And didn't care if she was...
So did Cummings. So did Cummings.
What happened to his wife?
Right,
but
what
he
happened
went,
to the Prime
no,
Minister?
he went with his wife. Margaret Ferry went to the trains, went to church, went to hairdressers. He went with his wife. I'm not excusing it, but I'm not what about it. Margaret Ferrier should never be an MP. Like, she stood up against LGBT and she didn't pick on. I agree with her. But listen, I heard Peter said earlier on about the protected Tories, right? Tories protected paedophiles and all that. So did Labour, Peter Mandelson. But listen, I'm going to tell you, because listen, before 8:30, I'm going to tell you something. Alex Salmond, who's the only political hero I've ever probably had, right? He's no freaky clean. When he was SNP government, they protected SNP government protected the largest paedophile ring in Scottish history. A man called James Rennie, Alan Smith's pal, was raping babies at 18-month-old. He was the LGBT chief executive officer, and he set up LGBT youth along with a man called Martin Henry. Please look Martin Henry up in Google. Can you put his face above the fireplace to keep burns away, right? And he's run paedophile charities all his life. Investigated, never charged. Now, LGBT youth, me and Jonas looked into this before the funding. They were being funded while the man was raping babies in a wee office, half the size of my 18-month-old baby. They were online looking for Down syndrome babies to rape, and the SNP were funding them. Now, so we can't slag Tories. We can't see any bastards at Westminster because they were Holyrood or worse. Now, after he got convicted, he got 9 years. Do you know what they done? They increased funding and they never investigated. When we done freedom of information requests, the SNP government were lying to us. They kept telling us they investigated LGBT youth, right? Before they increased funding. That's lies. Then they come back after 5 freedom of information requests that no investigation ever took place. Martin Rennie and his cohorts had access to thousands and thousands of children throughout Scotland, right? In the Parliament being applauded, and SNP government protected them. Alan Smith was his pal. Alan Smith took over LGBT youth, and the funding increased. Straight after. Funding increased.
Right.
So
and also, I remember, Scott, we looked into this straight after the computers were taken away.
Nothing.
Right?
Listen,
nothing was examined.
So
he took over straight after. And between 2012, 2009 and 2012, their funding increased to £900,000 a year.
Listen, come even forward. Derek Mackay, no MSP at Holyrood, right, has any protection laws safeguarding children. They're above it. When they asked to go under the same safeguarding rules as the rest of us, Alec Neil for the SNP says it was too radical for an MSP to follow the same rules as everybody else. Derek Mackay was inviting thousands of children into Holyrood to show them how the Parliament worked, and through TIE. TIE is just the new thingy pie. Anyway, Derek Mackay then gets caught. He never got caught. Everybody knew what he was into. If you ever went to an SNP conference, Jesus Christ, it was like a meat market. That YSS and the Youth Parliament has just been exposed through that councillor in Lanarkshire, molesting young laddies.
London.
Yes, and they still promoted them. Derek Mackay, she protected them. She protected Mackay over the... Now, Mackay had access to thousands of boys in Scotland, and the SNP didn't give that. So when I hear now, SNP or anybody, an MSP or whatever, say Tories are bad. Tories are bad. We all know Tories are bad. But they're as bad. They're equally as bad. I didn't see a paedophile with a salt tire and a paedophile with a Tory flag any different. To me, they're paedophile.
Oh, right.
Now, I'm not going into detail here, but I'm passionate about this because me and Porty grew up and we've seen this, didn't we? We've seen this for years. These men that were getting told they're oppressed, they're oppressed and they're marginalised. No, they were taking me boys away from school, all about voting in. Now, the SNP supported him. The Alex Salmond government supported them, and Nicola Sturgeon's government increased funding, protected them. So what's the difference? I didn't see now. I'm at a stage now. I didn't see the difference with Westminster and Holyrood. What's the difference? I hate saying that because I'm reigning our independence. But what's the difference? Peter Mandelson's in the Labour Party, and we've got Angus Robertson, Rory Radnor. What's the difference? Want to go right through the SNP? Well, you're going to start today, but go
40.
right through the SNP. Matt, Peter fucking Morrell, Angus Robertson, Nicholson, 18 to 30 club rep, Nicholson gets called at Westminster, Westminster pimp. That's what's representing our country, independent. It's not about independence. We need radical change throughout. Radical change. Oh, they them in Hollywood. They're a pound short version. I went in there just about 4 months ago, just for a wee look. What they're doing, my wee tourist thing. Honest. Have you seen some of them in India? You wouldn't send them to the shop for your messages. You wouldn't get to let them take a dug a walk, and they're getting 85 grand a year for. But they've been employed by Sturgeon and people like that because they're below mediocre, and they make Sturgeon look decent. That Parliament, honestly, I couldn't run a manage.
All they've got is a smartphone and a smart mouth. That's all that they've got, all these ones.
Anyway,
There's nothing smart in between that. There's no anything smart in between their phone and their mouth. That's the only thing.
There isn't. No, isn't.
And like you kind of it makes you wonder, as you say, what chance have we got if that's the best we've got to offer. And there are other potential ones, but again, people need to show a lot. Again, well, here you go. Let's quickly talk before you go. Sarah Sawyers, right? Sarah Sawyers has been pushing the claim of rights in Salvo, and also SSRGs. The message for SSRG as well. But Mayor Salvo and claim of rights now. Now she burst onto the scene with the speech that she made at the Alba conference, and she's really consistent. And she said herself in threads on Twitter that she's a pacifist and things like that. And I see myself as a pacifist. But when somebody's trying to kill me, I'm like, I'm taking a bit of you with me. Like, I always say, like, I would bend down backwards for folk, right? But see the minute I see them hovering near the top of me to try and shit in my mouth, I'm snapping back up and I'm taking a bit of them with me, and they're going to remember me forever, right? That's like so. It's there. That's what you want to do then, in advance. If you think people are stupid and you treat them like stupid, then you make the mistake of doing that if they're not, right? So I always try and go, well, no, I've not done anything to merit that. So as a result, there's a strike coming back, right? But Scotland hasn't got that. Scotland's not got anything. Sarah Sawyers is about the closest. But again, it's no, you need to tone the message down, and you need to do that. And so I'm not the tone down message.
When have you ever seen independence given with the action?
Never.
Now, they claim your rights, if I'm being honest. I think it's a pie in the sky. And the reason I believe that, I started reading Roddy Dunlop, who's British Metro. By the way, I don't believe he's a unionist. He plays a wee game. I think he's got a wee thing for independent. But he's right in one thing. People are looking for this claim of rights, something magically fall out the sky to be as independent. The only way Scotland will ever get independent, fucking march into Hollywood and fucking demand it. And we can't do that. There's people with passion in Scotland. But look how they're treated. Our classes, see them in Hollywood, I would bulldoze it. I'll tell you, Porty's going to tell you this. I'm a giant of the trade. When they were building the Parliament, I swear honestly, they used to build up concrete walls. Politicians used to come down their bus, Lord Sheridan included, Margot MacDonald, the whole lot of them all posing for fucking footage. £40 million estimate, it costs £400 million, 10 times the budget. Right now, it started then. We can't build ferries, we can't build a Parliament. How are we going to run a country? Do what's running us? We've got the very, very worst of Scots in our Parliament. The very worst. There's maybe 2 or 3 you can look through, a couple in each party, you could say fair play. But look at the rest of them. I don't know anything that ever good. Scottish Parliament, the only thing good that's ever been put in there. All Mick McGacky's ashes are in the foundations in the library, right? Because his son sneaked in after he died, and it was designed by the Spanish. It was built by the Irish. It was the roots. You couldn't get a job in the Scottish Parliament unless you had an Irish name, unless you were an Irish subcontractor. And the politicians used to come down their bus loads for the church, General Assembly, Church of Scotland, and pose for photographs. And, we used to build wassy concrete 2 days after the politicians doing the route Cangle hammers, knocking them back down again, 10 times over the odds, 10 times. 40 million at started, they'd come up with £400 million. 2010, I was with Peter Lynch, who's a Dr. Peter Lynch. He's a political tutor at Stirling Uni. And we're sitting in a big lecture theatre, and George Robertson, do you remember him, the speaker?
Aye.
He's giving this speech, great speech about the Parliament, and I said, well, I couldn't help myself. He started talking about a place called Dummy Dykes, right? And he couldn't even pronounce it properly. Now, Dummy Dykes is 100 yards away from the Parliament, and I couldn't help. I says, listen, Dummy Dykes, you can't even pronounce it. I says, there's people 100 yards away from the Parliament, they're living in fear, they're living in derelict, there's no shops, there's no buses, they're in poverty. Okay, what his answer was? The people from Dummy Dykes were in the Parliament the other day, they're performing for us. Oh, I couldn't help myself. I said, here, pal, you've got the whole joke wrong. You're meant to be performing for them. They're not meant to be performing. Everybody started clapping. Peter Lynch started laughing. That was Scottish politics for 2010. George Robertson tells us the people from Dummy Dykes.
Lord George.
Yes, Lord George. The people from Dummy Dykes was in the Parliament just this week performing for us. I said, you're meant to be performing for them. The people in Dummy Dykes have not got a bus route, have got no shops. See, during COVID, the only guy that done their boy was their boy Jim Slave, and the government never went near them. The Scottish Parliament and Scottish politicians, by the way, I hate saying this because she's only one decent. But the only one decent is Joanna Cherry, and look what she thinks she is. What fucking. So I'm sorry, but eventually in my mind, the independence, what's independence? I'm going to still be a Scott Forbes working class man. Where Sturgeon, Peter Morell, and in Holyrood, or that Mandelson, or Rivers in Holyrood, what's it? Westminster, any different?
Peter.
Yeah, well, listen.
As much as I respect Joanna Cherry, I do respect Joanna Cherry, right? What I don't forget is she's an officer of the court. She's a Queen's Counsel, and her first oath is to the Crown and the Queen.
Listen, do you casually boast now of your position
and maritime
in
law? You know what I'm talking about. Listen, 100%. You know what I'm talking about, Scott, right?
Yes.
Her first oath is to the Crown and to maritime law, right? Which is the basis of law in this country, right? And it's all about protecting the Crown assets and property. It's not about us. And that's who Joanna Cherry is to, and that is who every lawyer's oath is to when they are in court. Their oath is to the Crown, not to the people.
Joanna Cherry, listen, every MSP swears allegiance to the Crown. So, listen, same as Joanna Cherry, but listen, Joanna Cherry, and by the way, she is the best. I'm no picking on Joanna Cherry.
Never mind, I respect her very much.
But she beat the British government twice, but she didn't beat them to win Scottish independence or fight for Scotland. Because she didn't like and by the way, it's a democratic will that we remain British, and then it was your democratic will that we left Europe. I voted to remain in Europe, but listen, all I've ever done is to fight.
Scott, I know you're going with this, right? She was trying to save England from themselves,
100%.
right? Now, see what
100%.
England voted for. 52% of them voted for Brexit. Let them have it. Yeah. That's when they were at their weakest. That's when Scotland should have been negotiating.
Listen, we voted in 2014 to remain in Britain.
I don't think we did.
I don't think we did either, to be honest.
No, 2014. Okay, we never. Okay, well, right. And then Joanna Cherry was fighting to say what she believed, to want to be European. Most of these middle class, overprivileged, but that's what they are, by the way, they're overprivileged, or want to be this Europe. Listen, fair play if you want to be in Europe, and understand why. But she never fought for Scotland. She fought for Britain and Europe. She tried to save Britain for itself. She now tells she's proud to being elected to some position within Westminster, within our human rights group. What's an SNP MP taking Westminster, propping up the British government, helping the British government? Listen,
I get what you're saying.
I think it comes back to what Eileen was saying there. Our first allegiance is to the Crown. So it comes back to that.
Listen, I genuinely have to shoot, but listen, a very quick one, and listen, a nice CJ40. Give me a bell, I'll text you now. Nicola Sturgeon, have you ever seen Nicola Sturgeon look at the Queen and Prince William?
Oh, aye.
She's standing with Spanish the other day who beat Catalonians to bits, and Sturgeon's posing with them. What chance are we ever going to have if we didn't get rid of him in Holyrood first. The only chance Scotland's ever, this is only my opinion, the only chance Scotland will ever have of independence is see all the 56 SNP MPs at Westminster, get rid of them all. But they're not one of them that'll ever fight for anything to do with Scotland. And them in Holyrood, oh Jesus, they're as bad as anybody I've ever seen in Westminster. But that's
to be honest with you, if the SNP as a party is to survive, you need to clear out the lot.
Yeah.
Lock, stock and smoking.
Yeah.
I think, Mark, listen, Yona, listen, lovely seeing you. Have to. I've got,
You say
my phone's non-stop.
Scott.
Listen, Peter, thanks again. But listen, when you're in
I'll give you a
Edinburgh,
bell.
the next time you're in Edinburgh, get in touch and we'll meet you, and I'll take you a walk out of Dalkeith and show you stuff.
Aye,
Me and
definitely.
Rattlecans will come and see you.
Definitely, because Scott, what I was going to say was, I'm behind everybody because I say that I wouldn't get your book until I come through to see you to get the signed one off you. So that's how I've not read it yet. I was going to say that earlier on, but we get sidetracked. So
Well,
thanks
Peter,
very much for joining us.
You're welcome. Listen, the only reason I've not got books to hand out, because I ordered 200, and what I've seen is it's not coming till the 30th. All my pals are reading my book and sending me pictures. I'm not the one that's not got one.
Aye, well,
Can
there
I
you go.
Can I get your autograph, Scott?
Aye, number
I was
one
going to ask the same.
bestseller in constitutional law. It's available on for Kindle and paperback on Prime on Amazon at $9.99, and you can buy it all online. Scott Forbes, thanks very much for joining.
Yeah, thank you very much,
I'll let you
Jonah.
go and enjoy the rest of your night. Right, and thanks again.
Boris, text me your number, Boris.
I will do. I will do.
God bless, son.
Take
Yeah,
care.
everybody, take it easy. Right, so once Scott goes out, right, that's us three back, just us three. Right, we're still live, guys. So just so you know, we're still live. Because there was a couple of things that we never got to cover, and I'd like to get your thoughts on them anyway. There was an independence march in Inverness today, and I want to kind of talk about it because it was. I think it was an all under one banner organised event.
Yeah.
Is my understanding. But there was also they'd organised or they had arranged to go to Perth and then pulled out at the last minute for whatever reason, I don't know. But the event today was going ahead and it went ahead. So I'm going to do a wee share. Wendy McDonald, who I went to Perth with on Tuesday, was there, and she done a wee bit of. Oh, hold on, I need to set it up and back then first, guys. She done a wee bit of streaming today. I was trying to watch in between, as I say, I was at one of the sex reveal parties, and I was trying to watch this on the phone, like with the volume down, and like try to tune in while I was supposed to be mingling with other people, you know, doing that bit like Scottish independence or mingle with people to talk about a Wayne that's not here yet. Scottish independence, right? That's just
See,
me,
before
you know
you go on with that, I saw something on Twitter the day, and it was a man and a woman, right, had put this tweet up kind of thing about how his wife had been told by a psychic that she was having a girl, right?
Right.
And 3 psychics, she was having a girl, and they went for the scan and they were told it was a boy, right? And this guy, I mean, Zoomer, right? She's going to start taking extra HRT, right? Whilst the baby's still inside, right? Just to give the Wayne a start for transing as it's
That
born.
not harm the baby.
Wow, man. But
Honest. I looked at it and I went like that. It's
crazy.
Aye, right. Well, we'll
right.
talk a wee bit
But they're
about
getting
that.
away with it. They're getting away with this in school.
Aye,
Assigned sex at birth.
the schools are mental. You know what I mean? And it just like flies in the face of like madness when they talk about it, and they say they're having one of these reveal parties, a sex reveal party, and how can you have a sex reveal party if it's observed? It's assigned at birth and no observed.
Aye.
So what?
I've never heard.
Make your mind up.
I've never heard of that term before, sex reveal. If somebody invited me to one of them, I'd be looking forward to it.
Right. Well, they actually try and use another word for another word in front of reveal. However, I believe in biology and I believe that it's sex and no anything else. So it's revealing the sex of the baby that's got to be brought into
the world.
I've never heard it before. Never.
Aye, again, everything is Americanized. It's a case of how do we
Comes
make
over here.
money? How do we make money off this? So there's all these balloons, pink balloons and blue balloons, and they're all we boy and girl on them, and you get plates. It's a market. Everything's a market, and it's like, how do we market this? How do we market that? And as we've discovered before, Eileen, when we spoke about trans and the situation with that, it's a market, and they'll take every opportunity to exploit that market. And trans is just a market for people, and it's we
how
went into that.
How many things have we adopted from America?
Exactly, exactly. And we're going to go on and talk about something else real soon after I show a wee bit about this, right? So let me do this. I've got it set up in the background now, guys. So this is Wendy McDonald, who is a friend of mine, an absolute diamond.
We go to the Yes Bikers have just arrived, folks. You can hear the thunder. Sorry about the bobbling, I'm just trying to make my pole longer. So the thunder has arrived in the Fisherman's car park. It's a nice day here in Inverness.
That was just a wee bit about the bikers. So what we'll do is we'll come out of that, and then we'll go to the other one with the actual march itself. And that one is, oh, come on somebody else's page, of course. Oh, there it is there.
Well, of course.
So news, Tara.
Right, so that was a claim of right, woman there. What we'll do is we'll just come back a wee bit to about here.
Barbara, isn't it?
Aye.
Fair play to her.
Cancel that. What happened there? Play that. Not working. Why is it not working? Right, it's not working. Right, we'll come back to that after. Aye, so the Independence March, so everybody that was out today, there it's there on the wee screen. I'll put this in. Right. That was all the...
I'll help you with the countdown if you like.
Right, we're ready to go. Okay, we're ready to go. You ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right, let's go.
Independence. If you still try to get here, you can join us en route. We had the bikers earlier on, I'm sure we'll see them again.
Right, so we'll stop back there. Thanks again to Wendy for going and giving us some coverage, some excellent coverage. Coverage that she does is always excellent, to be fair. So thanks again to Wendy. And to everybody that was there, I'm sorry I couldn't make it today, but I had that sex reveal thing.
Yes.
Porty, what's your thoughts first, mate?
Well, to be honest, it's another one like the other week there you caught me with the chartered cities.
Well, we're going to talk about chartered cities, Eileen. Talk about that.
Well, I've done a wee bit of homework now, but I only saw a wee bit of it because there was a game of football in Hughesville.
Oh, right. Who was it that was playing, mate?
It was that wee team for Leith and the big team for Glasgow.
Oh, what do you mean the big team? Second big team? Or the second biggest team, maybe?
Aye, well, aye.
Third biggest.
Aye. They're playing the second weirdest, the second biggest team in Edinburgh.
Right, aye, so it was, that must be, right, for your point of view then, so that must be Hibs against, so if it's the second or third biggest team, because you've got,
It wasn't Partick Thistle now.
you've got Partick Thistle, you've got Clyde, and then, oh, well, must be, oh,
Rangers,
Celtic or Lamora, so Rangers, must have been Rangers,
Aye.
Celtic or Lamora.
Don't remind me. Don't
What was the
remind
score?
me.
What was the score?
It was 2-2. It was a good game.
2-2, right.
Two justifiable sending-offs, but in the
Right.
same hand, to be fair to the Hibs, to be fair to the Rangers, which I know normally accustomed to them, but the Hibs defender committed practically exactly the same foul on a Rangers player prior, and he only got a booking.
You only got a yellow card. See
Aye.
that inconsistency. That's what always the controversy in it. You want
But it was
referees to be
what-
consistent.
It was Willie Collum. It was Willie Collum, so he expected a couple of sending-offs anyway. Yeah.
Well,
Par for the course.
he's good with his red cards. Right, Eileen, I know that you're not really too keen on football.
Sorry, Ivan. Sorry.
No,
I'm a
right.
footballer heads, on you go, lads.
No. And for anything, we're fair here. So, what was your thoughts on the end of March?
What was my
Independence March, the folks walking.
It's right. We've had 2.5 really hard years, right, with COVID. People are exhausted, discouraged, right? But now we're getting to a stage where people are losing hope. It's good to see, that folk in Inverness are getting together, right? And I'm hoping that it's going to be the start of people getting together in other cities. Exchanging views, talking to each other, and having the big marches that we used to have before.
What sort of numbers are you hoping that we get?
Hundreds of thousands. We've done it before.
Hundreds of thousands.
We've done it before.
We have. Now I've got you. I've left you on the spotlight, the new Eileen, because we're going to talk about charter cities. You're going to talk about charter cities, and we're going to listen. To be perfectly honest,
Thank God.
which shouldn't be an issue. So,
I just, right, well, apparently there's been talk of this in the likes of the Financial Times, right, the Sunday Times, the big broadsheet newspapers.
Yep.
Right. And I've got to say, I missed it, right, because when I come in at night time or whatever, my first reach isn't for the Financial Times. But for the past year, I've been hearing whispers about charter cities, and I had a good look about what happened in Madagascar and in Honduras and even in Portugal, right? And they are throwing them out of Honduras in the moment. And it just so happens that the same people that were involved in Honduras are the same people that are involved here. And it's folk like Shankar Singham, it's folk like the IEA, it's folk like former MPs, it's folk like, there's a Crown representative as well, the Duke of Gloucester, right? And all they are, right, I took notes on this, is a venue for criminal organisations seeking to circumvent tax laws, right? And there's going to be crackdowns on bank secrecy, right? What happened was on the 10th of January 2022, the EU started to review what was happening to the populations, right, in these free ports and charter cities. Right, they were paying special attention to high net worth individuals, criminal organisations, and everybody that was trying to circumvent, hide their money, right? And that was because of what they looked at in the Honduras. Right, what we're talking about is there'll be free tax havens, there'll be illicit and illegal activity, weapons trading, drugs, stolen art, human trafficking, right? And these are going to be little wee fiefdoms. I sent you a map, Peter, earlier
Yep.
on.
You did. I'm just
That map
locating
was
that on
actually-
you, Eileen.
Right, that map was actually done by the Geological Society. Right, and what it showed was, see that red bit up in Scotland?
Hold on a wee second, and I'm going to get the map. I'm going to get the map. Wait, I scrolled past it. Sorry. Eileen, there it's here. No, it's not that one.
Now, what I was reading recently was that the CEO of Glasgow City Council, Eastern Bartonshire, Western Bartonshire, East Renfrewshire, bit of North Lanarkshire, Renfrew, Dumbarton, right, were all attending meetings, and it was to talk about the possibility of putting a bid in for Greater Glasgow to be a green port. They're using the word green port instead of free port. And they've been attending these meetings for quite a while. And I never saw anything about it in the press. Nothing did I see about it. But these meetings were taking place. If you can find that map, Peter.
I'm just looking for it.
that
When
I
did you send me?
sent you.
Was that earlier the day you sent me that?
It was earlier in the day, wait now. I sent it to your direct messages.
Charter cities.
You've got to wonder if the press are me saying anything
Suppressing
about
it. Well, I believe they're suppressing it.
Aye, but I'm thinking about the owners, he said,
Right.
media.
Here it's
Have
here.
they got their fingers in the pies as
Oh,
well?
absolutely.
Right, here it's
that-
here. Hold on.
Absolutely.
Right, so this map
Right.
here that you're talking
The
about.
proposals were for, oh, sorry. That's the one, right? You see that red bit
Right.
up in
This bit here.
Scotland?
Yep.
Aye.
Right. That's potential oil, right? That's for shale,
Fracking.
right? And we all know what shale does. I'm a geographer, right? Shale destroys your land. It contaminates your water table. It destroys your aquifers, right? That's what they're proposing for one of the free ports, the central belt. That's why these chief executive officers from these local authorities have been meeting about putting in a bid, right? There was a wee one just above that, Peter. If I can just pinch that, if it'll open for me. Going to tell me what that says. The one, what's the green one underneath it?
I can't read what the green.
Can you not read it?
Hold
Right.
on, I'll try and stretch it.
Now, what they've done is they've extended the areas. They were only meant to be like 25 miles, but look where they've extended it. See all the areas where there's anything of value, right? It's got either oil or gas, right, or minerals underneath it, right? That's for the Geological Society. Let's see, geological overviews of resources and estimates for these areas. And that's where the charter cities and free ports are planned for.
Carboniferous.
Right, so this
Valley.
is independent. Right, this you can this here, you know, that you see there, that map, that's an independent map, right? But the bids for the charter cities, right, and the free port in Scotland are trying to be, I think this might have been the Greens' influence here. They're calling it green ports rather than free ports. And what they are is they're like wee fiefdoms. It's like a city, like because we've got the City of London, right, down south. The City of London's got their own police force. Right, the City of London, they don't work under the rules that anybody else does, right, in the UK. And neither will these charter cities, right? Be different rules for them, right? There'll be no trade unions, right? It'll be 0 hours contracts. It'll be the lowest pay. There'll be tied housing. I wouldn't be surprised if they have their own police forces as well. And all that is about is squeezing the people dry. And I am absolutely furious, right, that the likes of Ian Blackford, right, is putting it up on Twitter, how wonderful he thinks this is, right? And I saw this lassie the day, English, sitting down with these 3 other people, explaining how wonderful this was, an opportunity this was going to be for some place up in the Highlands, that it was going to bring in 2.6 billion, you know, in economy, right? That's what it was going to bring in. And it was going to bring in 35,000 jobs, right? I don't believe a single word of it, right? This other one, you know, you've just put up there, that's America, right? We're only 5 minutes behind them.
Yep.
Right?
So
State legislator takes away the power, right, from new municipalities, that would be like towns, right, that you can't take your government to court when they're polluting all round about you, when they're putting asbestos or chromium or anything else is getting put into your land, right? Or when sewage, right, and runoff of farms or anything like that is polluting your land, right? And they're going to make it that you can't take it to judicial review, that you can't take the government to court and say, make these companies stop doing this. And that's what they'll do. It is the worst thing I have heard in my entire life. And we better wake up to this. We've got 6 months to stop it, because Rishi Sunak is involved in it. His father-in-law is involved in it, right? The father of his wife, the billionaire wife, right? Liz Truss went over to America along with Rishi Sunak, right? They got their training there. So did Kezia Dugdale, Professor Kezia Dugdale, for the John Smith Institute, right? They've all been over, right? They've all taken the training. They all know what's happening, right? This is ass stripping in a way that we have never seen before.
So
the government could stop. They could stop what is happening with, you know, these electricity companies and these gas companies. They just choose not to. They could renationalise.
The point is it going to be any different with Labour?
No, I don't believe it is.
No, I don't think they would change it. One's as bad as the other.
Yes, right, because there's still too many Blairites.
Aye, yeah.
Labour.
right,
When they went into like this kind of coalition type thing with, there was a Lib Dems in 2010, it was decided that it was far too many people getting benefits, and they decided to cut benefits for the people who could least afford it. Right, it turned my stomach to see Labour actually voting for it, right, and saying yes.
But
we've got 2 years left.
It turns my stomach to see the Labour Party as it is now.
aye.
Turns my stomach.
Well, I
We've
don't
got
really,
2 years left, and we're not going to have a welfare system.
I don't really care
Right.
about the Labour Party or the Tories or any unionist party, to be honest. It's
No.
a case of,
No.
it's a case of we should be looking after our own, and it looks as if political parties on the in a place to support the will of the people. And when I say political parties, I mean the political parties that are in power. You've got other political parties trying to make way, and again, I'm going to say I've not heard much of ISP since the election. I never heard much of them before. Alba had come on kicking and screaming and looked as if everyone was going to go really positively, and they didn't make the breakthrough that a lot of people had hoped for. However, there's still a lot of good people there, but it's just, again, it's just I don't know. I just want
Peter,
Scotland to be
it's
independent.
no, I think that
the case. I think the people need to do it. It's not got to be done by a political movement.
yeah,
If you look back in history,
the media.
I was just going to say, Eileen, if you look back in history, I'll stop by sharing now. to times like Sinn Féin and what have you, is the one that always comes to that gets brought up. If you look at it's movements, it's usually people-led movements that actually make the difference. And as Scott had said it and alluded to earlier, and a lot of people have. When the people want something, that they've got the power to get it, and it's having that belief and standing up, because you've got rights, you've got laws, you've got protections, and like, you get told you've no, and you get told, oh, no, you don't speak up, keep your voice down, and everything else, right? But that's
The Golan thing. Sorry,
that's
Peter.
what they want today. The bullies want you to don't speak up. They hold on no, we'll do this and we'll do that, because all your days and you're telling, well, if you believe in something, talk up about it. Don't be shy.
They're public servants. They're public servants. We put them there.
Exactly, and we can
You
remove
know?
them just as. And people need to have a wee bit of belief in themselves about that. And it's not
I'm more
pie in the
inclined to-
sky. I wanted
more
to
inc-
get a. Sorry,
I'm more
Paul, you got
inclined-
something?
Sorry, I was just going to say, I'm more inclined to think that it's going to take a revolution, to be honest.
Aye, something like
Yeah.
that. Well,
You know?
I meant to actually say when Scott was on, or I wanted to say before we went away about the claim of rights, and he says they thought it was pie in the sky. I believe in the claim of rights. I've looked through, and it's like, again, it's popular. It's got to be. It's popular. It's got to be the popular will of the people. And I think there's enough people that are fed up with this shite that go, well,
Yeah.
we want change, but we want change for the political class that's there the new and that's doing nothing for us. Because let's be honest, if they took the country forward since 2014, you need to be
No.
honest here. No, they've no. Everyone's went backwards. And you
Peter,
can't say it's the pandemic.
I don't know if
this or
it's
this.
true. I don't know if it's true, but I saw on Twitter today, somebody said, you know, the way Gove had done some kind of poll as to what would be the likelihood of, you know, independence if we were given a referendum just now, and he refused to
72%.
publish 73%. That's what it's going to be.
And then
Right.
there was options. Allegedly, there was options below that. So if it wasn't a yes/no referendum, if it was the Devo Max, they would still. And again, yes, allegedly would still be the option that people would vote for. Although I believe if there's other options added in, then it gives people that thing where they go, oh, the safety net is to go for the middle option and no, and be non-committal, because a lot of people are like that. Oh, I'm not to commit to something. Like if they've got two options, yes or no, then that's your what you're wanting. But I don't think it's got to be managed right. I don't agree with how the revelations that have came for the last one. What's the franchise? What's this? What's that? All these questions have got to be answered.
Do you know what I was told, Peter? You know, about this franchise. I was told that was all settled in like 2012, 2013. Right, and
however,
I wasn't really that switched on. You know, at that stage, you know, some of my children were still really young. You know, and I was busy and I was doing school runs and, you know, all that kind of thing. Right, so I never took part in that discussion on the franchise, on who should actually get a vote and who shouldn't. Right, and I've learned that since the year 2000, there have been 1 million people have come up from England to live in Scotland. Right, and I've got to ask myself, why would we give a vote to people who are going to tie us to the country that we're trying to get away from?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
It's I don't think it's right, and I don't think it's fair.
No, it's not.
You've heard me talk about my mate Rattlecans, right? She went to work in America kind of thing, and you know, she's a scientist, and she had a green card and everything for working there, right? But she went right to vote there on constitutional things. Why should I have the right to vote there? I'm Scottish. I'm just working there. I'm living there. I'm paying taxes and everything else like that.
It's the same in Ireland.
Country.
It's the same in Ireland. It's the same in, as far as I'm aware, a vast majority.
It's the same in every country in the world.
So
constitutional matters.
Why should we be any different? Why should we be any different? I don't see it at all. I don't see it.
And I know we're all meant to be jock terms and spares and all that, right? But as I said to you, I never got a chance to have my say in this constitutional matter back in 2012, 2013, right? And I'm getting told, oh, you're terrible, you're horrible, right? People have stayed here 5 years, people have stayed here 10 years, you know, they've got the right to, and I've gone, right, look at the numbers, right?
We're racists if we're classed as, you know, it's wrong. It's wrong.
Aye, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. Right, I'm going to say this, right, because
Makes me angry.
aye, mate, but like, and that's the thing. Like, anger is a like, people
Anger's
have got,
cleansing.
aye, people have got a right to be
Anger is
angry
cleansing
at
if it's-
things that are against them. And as Eileen says, and as Porty says, people have got a right to be angry. It's cleansing. It's like a case of, well, no, it's a way of venting. Like, I don't agree with. I don't agree with that. And when it keeps on, like, here you go. Let's put it this way: if somebody keeps on poking you in the chest, right, just stoning, poking you in the chest all the time, right, just poking you there, right. There's only so long you let them poke you for before you go enough.
Before you give them a
You're
scale.
gonna stop that, right? And then when they don't stop it after you've gave them the warning, you can leather them, and say, well, you were fair warned, right? We're at the stage now that we've been fucking poked in the chest that many times that they're nearly coming through the back endies, and yet you've got other ones saying, hold.
The kettle's on.
Oh.
The kettle's on. Come and join us. That'll be
Come up,
fucking
come
shining
up,
bright.
there's biscuits.
Except you can't be a woman because we don't recognise what women are anymore in the Scottish government. You know, like all these divisive things we're doing this for the good to be progressive. The kids.
If that's the case, I don't want to be progressive.
No, but
My kettle's not on. My kettle's not on. I've only got one cup, so you can fuck off back in, as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Well, here
you
you
know,
go.
there's three words in the English language I have come to despise: diversity, inclusion, equality.
Well, you can understand.
Everything's got to be diverse. Everything's got to be inclusive. Everything's got to be equal. Well, I'm sorry, life isn't like that.
Aye.
It isn't.
Exactly. Life isn't what do they call all roses? Right. I've just noticed that on the chat there's been quite a few people that saying things that just all seem to stream up at the one time there. And somebody messaged me on Twitter to say that they couldn't see the chat. So I wonder if there's been a problem with the Twitter chat. So I'm going to go through some of the messages just so that folk know that we're not just talking ourselves. They've just all come up. Oh wow, man, there's a lot there. Right. So for Leanne, this was for Scott. Great book, Scott. Well done. Colin Jackson, well done. Good evening, attention seekers. Scott is a grassroots hero. Hi, folks. Tracy, well done, Eileen. Well said, Eileen, for Euro. Mrs. Murrell, Euro says, well, Mrs. M, I don't know. I don't know. Right, use of your own thoughts. I just know it's Mrs. M, and it's so use of your own thoughts for it, right? We'll show Mary Mrs. M just before we go, which isn't too far away, by the way, because we've run on a wee bit. We've said, well said, Eileen, again. Eileen, you're getting a lot of well said. Raffle, I don't know what that's for. Hi, all. Sorry I'm late for CN. Susan, we are past caring about what folk think about us when it comes to folk dying. Thanks to Westminster policies.
Yes.
You're going to do more than bloody swear at Tories. Exactly, Susan. You're so spot on. Karine, just in. Hi, everyone. Tracy, here. Porty, time to take to the streets. Right, that must have been some music. As I say, they've all just come through at the one time there, so there must have been something wrong with the chat, folks. Apologies. I love this format, Peter. Great chat. These folks know their stuff. This is a lot of SNP politicians at Holyrood are career politicians. Farah did nothing wrong. I fully support her. Exactly. Euro, I agree. All under one banner marching in all our towns and cities is one thing, but we need to bring the protests and marches to Holyrood, Boot House and St Andrews House.
Yes.
Totally agree.
Yep.
Somebody else says, yes, we need to be at Boot House and Euro House. Sorry, I'm not looking at the camera now, folks. Again, I've still not worked out how to do this with the share on the screen at the same time with this. Said that ages ago, Boot House, right? So a lot of people are saying that. I agree with Scott. I'm 56 and really don't think I'm going to see Scotland independent. This is Dave. in my lifetime. This means I won't rest in peace. Looks like I'm going to be haunting plenty in the afterlife. If that's the case, I'll be doing the same. Absolutely. Free ports are a direct threat to the Scottish people, Euro says. Totally agree on that. Joanna Cherry was one of the first to moan about Perth, and Michelle Thompson. I've seen that. I've seen these people moaning as well. Ian Blackford is a great supporter of free ports in Scotland. Yes. Any questions? Euro, no, just the water. They're laying subsea power cables from Scottish waters down to England. Eileen, you'd said something about that earlier.
Yep.
I would agree. So did Prince Charles get away with it because of privilege? Well,
Of course he did.
When you were talking earlier, Eileen, Angus Robertson is the heir apparent. This is to the SNP leadership. I think that's the way it's getting framed. Aye. Tracy says they're all the same. I agree with that. We pay for same BS. BBC, we pay for the same BS, right? That's for government G51. SNP, same control from above, not the people. Cheers, folks. Peel Ports is one of the ones behind the Glasgow Freeport application, along with the Canadian Pension Fund. Owned Fourth Ports are on board with the fourth Freeport applications. The fourth application stretches from North Berwick right into and including Grangemouth. The Orkney application covers all of the energy infrastructure there, existing and future for hydrogen production. Orkney has Scotland's second largest oil terminal. Well said, Porty. Great show, Frankie Mary. Thanks, Frankie, who's joined us and said great show as well. So that's us up to date with the comments. Apologies, they've all just come through at the one time there, so there must have been something wrong with the chat. We've got to catch up a wee bit with Mrs. M, a wee bit more with Mrs. M. Now, you can have your thoughts about who Mrs. M might be, right? But if you listen close to what's getting said, I think some of the things that are said kind of guide you to something in particular, right? So let me find. Oh,
I'll be back in a wee sec. I'm just going to get a fag, right? So you get it set up. I'll be back.
That set up.
I'm just making one. This Mrs. M, is she going about with a geezer called Peter?
She's no, actually. It was somebody I don't want to give away too much in case it identifies the person. It was somebody who I knew of from online, then seen TikTok, and then was surprised to discover the person behind the TikTok was somebody that I knew from online, and there was no other connection, right? So, after when the mask come off, I was quite surprised, so to speak, and it was a good surprise. So we're going to show
just with the morale, Mrs. M, Mrs. Morale. No, I thought it might have been she was going to with a Peter.
Well, it could well be. You never know, right? So we'll show the next instalment for the interview, the second part when I caught up with her after the rescheduled interview, right? So this was the second part. So we'll play this. So welcome back to Tweet Street Scotland Occupied, and thanks very much to yourself, Mrs. M, for agreeing to come back. We had to reschedule the last time because you were double booked. So we're coming back. We'll get straight in about it. We're taking we do a quick fire quiz, and I'd like you to take part in that. It's just a choice of two options where you pick your preference. You okay to take part in that, Mrs. M?
Yes.
Oh, excellent. Thanks very much. So we'll start straight away. Videos or books?
Books.
Apple or cherry?
Apple.
Steak or salmon?
Steak.
Hotel or B&B?
Oh, I love a hotel. Hotels.
YouTube or TikTok?
TikTok. You know.
Mrs. M, tumble drying or pegging out?
Oh well, pegging out. I guess my husband loves a bit of pegging. Finds it quite relaxing.
Harry or William?
Oh,
and so TikTok, Mrs. M, you're saying about you've got a TikTok.
I do. It's yes, I do. It's
What do you do that for? I take it.
Well, it's just a bit of fun. Nobody really looks at it. It's just that I need something to relax me, you know, because my job is quite stressful.
It must be really stressful having to deal with all of these meetings and I see you were with some ambassadors without any flags the other day, and
Yes.
so it must be really stressful having to do that. So I can understand why you were TikTok. Is that pretty much the reason behind it?
Well, no, it's really for all the book reviews that I have to do. They're exhausting.
Oh, so book reviews, Mrs. M. Right, so we'll stop that there. Right, we'll stop that there. And we'll come back to. Right, I'm going to pin you to the screen. Right, let me see. Add pin. Right, Porter, you were chuckling there.
The pagan got me. Brilliant.
Pegging got you, did it, mate?
I didn't care what it was up until a couple of weeks ago. God
And
bless
somebody
Vince
just tell
Williams.
me,
Eileen, I know it's not really. But
I honest to God thought it was about washing. I really did.
Oh, dear.
well, that was a quick fire quiz that we had with Mrs. M. There's a wee bit more that I'll show right before the end. However, there's a couple of wee bits that I wanted to mention before we finish up. Let me see what they are first of all. Right, so that's the wrong one. It's this one. So go to that. Oh, aye. There was something that I had noticed. Hold on. Press that. There was something that I'd noticed as a result of the protests in Perth the other day, and then all the furore after it. And I'd seen somebody posting something on social media earlier on the day, and it was what I was thinking about, but I just couldn't mind what it was. It was the Jim Murphy situation, right? But I just couldn't mind where where the report came from. There was a specific report, so I'm going to be a wee screen share that now, right? Because it was shared on social media today.
Is that the one with Cook and Murphy in the same picture?
Eddie Izzard and Jim Murphy forced to flee Glasgow rally as nationalists chant "Red Tories out."
Oh right, and somebody did the big, you know, fit up, and there was very few people there, and the way they took the picture, the way the media took the picture, it made it look as if there was hundreds.
Right, so minor scuffles, interviews abandoned, right? Aye, so let's have a wee look at this, just and we'll go through it. Right, so that was them fleeing, right? James Cook described the scene as the pair trying to deal with the protest as absolute chaos, right? No, that was absolute chaos, allegedly. They said afterwards, it's okay having different opinions, but everyone should be able to put their opinions forward. This is aggressive and violent emotion. Why violence? Blah, 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 right? So democracy, they mentioned democracy, it's all about voting. I wonder if he was representing himself as a man, or was he trying to represent himself as a kidding on as a woman at that point? Eddie Izzard. Right, so let's have a look. Right.
There was more photographers there than there was people.
Aye. 8 of them were invited up. 8 different main media were invited up. They were told something was going to happen. But what was very interesting was the picture that had been taken from above.
Yeah.
That showed you how few people were there.
Right, so I'm sure I've got that somewhere. I'll stop the share now and I'll try and find that. Right, let me see. You two chat amongst yourself about whatever while I'm trying to find that wee picture.
Do you know what occurred to me today was, does any remember when Two Jags John Prescott got egged?
Aye. Aye.
And he just turned round and he bumped the guy
Right
right in the
hook,
schneggy. Right? I was killing myself at that because I thought that was an honest to God, honest reaction,
Yes.
right, for a politician, the first one I'd seen in years, right? And it was like, okay, he got egged and he just went bump, right, finished, over, right? You know, and the egg is thrown in Perth and it's like, oh my God, how dare you? My pearls are clutched, right? The offensiveness, we must have a code of conduct, right? And no one should ever do this again. I'd take John Prescott any day.
Aye. To be honest with you,
anyway.
I still think, I thought at the time, and I still think Perth, it stank of setup. It really did. You know, very clever man, that James Cook. He played the pantomime.
Did you see the smirk in his face?
Aye.
I actually never tied a skeleton. Maybe if his mad gave him a skeleton when he was younger, he might have turned out a better person.
He got the kind of face you want a skeleton.
I think that's what I said.
That face
Aye, sorry.
that face there he's talking about.
That face there.
That one
that
there.
face there.
Right. I'm going to try and get that one that you're talking about, Eileen, that's for above, because I had it earlier on. I never saved it or that, so I'm just looking for it now. Oh, there was something else came to my mind there and it's away. See, this is what happens. I class this as stroke brain, right? See, because I've had a stroke, right? It's one of the ones that if I don't talk about it, then it jumps at my head and goes away to the back of my head and goes somewhere else, right? So that's what I class that as. Here we go. Right, map, no map, picture. Above. There it's there. Right. Right, here we go. That one there. So,
that's the very dab.
Right, so that was the clip that we just watched a wee minute ago, Jim Murphy allegedly getting chased out of town, right? And you'll see somebody's kindly mapped, all right. People not really giving a monkeys or in blue right there. The Labour, the press and Labour
press photographers
are there. Labour's Rent-A-Crowd are there. Jim and
Izzard.
Ed Lizard, Ed Izzard.
Lizard, that's right.
not Miliband, because let's be honest, who would turn up to see Ed Miliband in Scotland? So that was them there, right? That was your numbers there. And like, come on, man. I've seen Mayor standing outside for a cigarette at the dancing of late. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's not a number. That's not a number.
And Cookie, this man of integrity, this journalist from the BBC talked about thousands chasing him out of town.
Aye.
His relationship with the truth is tenuous. He wouldn't have jumped up and bit him in the arse.
Aye. Well, Paul says on YouTube, is that Lord John Prescott? I'll never wear a cloak from the party that
that'll be the one
that we're bringing the Lords down. Forgive my stupidity. So
all these proud socialists wear mine round their neck. Eh?
Aye. Like, again, I saw leading the Labour Party. If someone threw an egg from behind the barrier at Perth, you have to find them and get them in the Scottish athletics team as soon as possible. That was some throw. Thank you, Frankie. Frankie, thanks for commenting. I know that you've sent me an email and I've not responded to it. I've followed you on Twitter, and yes, I will make sure that any future stuff that I put out for yourself, you're tagged in. Frankie has done a song for us last week. Well, no, she'd done a song and she asked if I would play it or if I wouldn't mind playing it, and I says I would love to. That was The Tories Are Coming for the Perth thingy. And she's also working on a lot of other bits and bobs that she's going to Tweet Street's got the first dabs on specifically. So we'll be playing a lot of Frankie's satirical music and be adding a wee bit of pictures to it. We're going to go back to Mrs. M, right? We're going to go back to Mrs. M, and then we'll be finishing up, right? So here's Mrs. M.
Understand the poor souls on HRT.
Aye, well, wait, Eileen, I'm going to do you in. Right, just wait a minute. Right, here we go. Put this up to here. And actually, do a lot of book reviews, right? I get it. You into sport in any way? There's a big boxing event this weekend, Mrs. M, with your UK's representative Anthony Joshua and your Ukraine's representative Alexander Usyk in the heavyweight division. What's your thoughts? You into boxing or fighting, or who do you think's going to win?
No, it's not really my thing. Although you say that, the other day there, Vary and I had a fight in the office, and we were shouting and screaming, and then it went quiet, and you could have heard a pin drop. And then she lobbed the grenade at me.
That sounds explosive, but I suppose
Yes.
it explains the black market in Ukrainian arms, but doesn't it?
Yeah.
No, that sounds like a wee bit of a tough period. And talking about tough periods, what do you make of the period dignity officer that's been the male period dignity officer that's been given the position in Dundee? Is that not one of your city councils?
It's I don't really feel I can speak to a man about periods, Mr. Cinnamon.
What the hell?
Yes, it is. It is hell, and I'm going through the menopause.
Hmm.
It's
Talking about menopause, we'll just put a pause right there.
yes.
Right, so Eileen, I'm going to do you in.
I won't say it. I'm not going to say it. My lips are. I'm not. I'm not going to say it.
So that was the next instalment for Mrs. M's interview. There's got to be more instalments.
Would you make of that joker, that Jason one, a man, right now? See the position that they've given him, right? £36,000 a year. He's no starter yet because he's on his holidays, right? Number one, I can't think of a teenage lassie that would speak to a man about something as private and personal as that. Normally, a position like that would be taken by a public health specialist. People go to university and study degrees in public health, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's a personal trainer. Where's his qualification? The guy's a personal trainer, a gym, PT, right? And I believe he also worked for Imperial Tobacco. Was he telling people to stop smoking when he was working for them? Because, I mean, if he's working in a public health field, he really should, have been doing that. And I think that job, I believe it was advertised for 5 days. I think it actually been lined up for him. That's what I honestly believe. And he's like one of these people that the government and the SNP like that go along from job to job, 18 months secondment in this job, right? Then maybe off for 3 months, a 2-year section in another job somewhere else, and then another job somewhere else, because that's how they do it. That's how they keep their pals in. That's how nobody else gets a chance to get in to a job in government. They don't, right?
Well,
and they're all of the same mindset. In my opinion, a lot of them are sociopaths, and they'd have to be in order to do the things that they're doing to ordinary people in this country. And what they do is they employ people like them, which is more sociopaths. Folk that can turn around and say, like, for example, with the DWP, you're sanctioned, that can make a decision whether somebody's going to eat and whether they're not.
Right, well, here, wee second, Porty, right, we'll get you back in the wee second, mate. I'm going to show you this first, right, because this was something that frustrated me, so I done this, right? And I'll probably get copyrighted for the music and what have you. It's just the way it goes, right? I'm done with that. I'm done with. I've been censored for a lot of things, and I'm done with.
Flow to Scotland. When will we see your like again? That fought and died, your wee bit hill and glen, and stood against them. And sent him homeward to think again. When will we see the stood against him. Out Edward's army, and sent him homeward to think again.
So we'll get rid of that first, and then I'll stop the share.
Two things, Peter. Right. Number one, the person that's the disabilities officer. Right.
Yep.
How dare they? Right. I look at that and I see somebody that I feel is really quite know well.
Yes.
And needing some help themselves. Right. And I think, how dare they put a poor person like that in a position like that? I think it's disgraceful, right? And I think that they're doing it to use that person. And that says more about them than it says about that poor person that's doing that job. Right. And the other thing about period poverty, there was a survey done quite recently, right? And they made a big thing in Scotland about period poverty.
Oh, Eileen's froze. Right, hold on. Oh, wait a minute. Oh,
products.
Right,
right.
Hold on. Eileen, you froze there. Right, start again.
Right, sorry.
Right, on you go.
About the period poverty, Scotland made a big thing about how girls weren't going to school because either they or their parents didn't have the money to provide sanitary protection for them, right? And when the survey was done, girls weren't going to school, 35% of them weren't going to school because of physical pain, because there were cramps, right? And other things, you know, like dysmenorrhea, really heavy bleeding, right? Another big percentage of girls weren't going to school because of the mixed toilets and the embarrassment, right? And get into a lavatory, and in the next cubicle there could be a boy, right, banging on the wall while they're trying to get the papers, you know, taken from a sanitary product, and they were just mortified. It was actually only 1 to 2% were saying that they didn't have access to sanitary products. And since I was a wee lassie at school, right, if you get caught out and you started your period in school and you didn't have anything on you, you went to the office. Mm-hmm. There was always a woman in the office where you could go to the office and you could get, you know, a couple of sanitary towels till you got home. Right? They've made this a problem when it wasn't a problem.
I would have said, aye. I would have said, I mean, it's only hypothetical, but to offer that post, if you had a national poll or vote or whatever, saying this position here, blah, 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 what, you know, the identity of the position, do you think a man or a woman should be appointed? I'd say probably you're talking about 99.9% of the population would say a woman. A guy, you've got no,
Porty, it's not just that. This guy's actually he's taken on a role about menopause. He's meant to be discussing menopause with women, right? Is he get endometriosis in his brain?
It's all about a lived experience. He can't have lived that, so he doesn't know
He
anything
doesn't know
about
what he's
it.
talking about.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly.
Right? That would be like, and do you know something else that's really wrong? Right, see the charity that runs, it's a charity for men that have got cancer of the prostate.
Aye.
Now, there's 8 people on the board, and 6 of them are women. Right?
Aye.
Right.
Aye.
There isn't even a doctor on it. There's a physiotherapist, a specialist physiotherapist.
Crazy.
Right? And a nurse. Now, I would say that you might have maybe had 1 or 2 women who maybe had a relative who suffered prostate cancer or died from prostate cancer, and
My grandfather died.
they had the experience of supporting somebody through that. But I would have
Aye.
said, right, in my opinion, the rest of the people on that board that should have been running that are men, because they're the ones that suffer from it, and they're the ones that know about it.
Goes without saying.
And this is all wrong. It's wrong.
Do you ever get the impression that they're deliberately winding us up?
Aye.
Aye, well, there needs to be some consideration given to that as well.
But it's all about allies. You've
gotta
got
come back
to be an ally.
Oh,
You've
aye.
got to be an ally of the lobbyists,
Aye,
Aye.
or you're not going to get a job.
you're not going to get a say. They've tried. They've done that full no debate on everything. They're doing it. They've done it with women's rights. They've done it with the safeguarding issues with schools. Eileen and others. Well, we're talking about for ages and trying to get people aware of it. The full situation with LGBTQ plus, IA plus, or whatever it is, plus the alphabet plus, in schools, like, I think leads to the idea that they're trying to guide kids. It's guiding kids towards.
It's grooming.
It's social contagion.
We're not allowed to say
social contagion.
Aye, we're not allowed to say grooming. No, that's the thing. You're not allowed to say grooming.
Partly we're not allowed to say paedophile now either. It hurts their feelings.
It hurts them. Aye, it's minor attracted persons. Not paedophiles. They're paedophiles. Let's call it for what they are, right?
Peter, there's a guy called Malcolm Clark, and he put something up on Twitter yesterday, and I felt ill, right? I've always worried about this plus bit. He went on about, you ever wondered about the LGBT plus, right?
Aye.
And it was a group of men in Germany, right? And they actually have sex with their dogs.
Aye,
right? They were out in the streets, and they've all got these Alsatians and different dogs on.
There's all
on their leashes, right?
There's all sorts of incels and deviants attaching themselves to the movement because.
And it was Malcolm that put it up, and I thought, dear God.
I follow Malcolm. Malcolm's good.
Malcolm's good.
A lot of good threads. Right. I'm going to hold on a wee second, Aileen. I'm going to go to some of the comments that are coming in for folk on YouTube. Right. So Euro. Loud, I don't know if that was when Mrs. M was on. Aye. Tracy says the guy's a pervert. I don't know what that bit was at because that was there. Trish, I just want to say hi, thanks very much for tuning in. Hope you're well. Thinking about you. I know you've got things going on. So thanks very much for tuning in. Eileen's completely on point here when you were talking about periods. It was Paul says it was Monica Lennon who got the credit for pushing that through. Euro, they should have reserved the post to female applicants only under the Equality Act. Trish, again, protected characteristics. Anyone in the Scottish Government, supercalifragilistic plus was a comment, right? So we've ran on massively, right? Right? I'm going to show the final instalment in Mrs. M, and then we'll just have a wee see you later type thing. Oh shoot, I've no set up. I'll put it away. Right, let me get Mrs. M set up. It's here, and then I do that one and share. And here we go. The final instalment of Mrs. M for this evening.
Yes.
So Mrs. Emster, I'm really sorry about the appearance that I've got today, but it's forced upon me by the cost of living crisis. I can't even afford razors. I can't even afford to get a bath. What are you thinking about? Hopefully you'll be doing something for Scottish people during this cost of living crisis with the tough winter that's expected ahead.
Well, you know, my husband and I were talking about this the other day there, and we were saying about baths. He reckons that it's perfectly reasonable to be able to pee in the bath, and I just think it would be better if he could wait until I got out of it first.
So peeing in the bath, aye, well, but, I wasn't expecting that, if I'm honest, Mrs. M. But I mean, you've been married for a long time, so being such a public figure and what have you, there must be times when the marital bliss seems to wear off. It's not always plain sailing, I wouldn't imagine it.
Oh, let me tell you, I mean, sometimes we have fights, you know, we do. We're just like any other couple. And he actually said to me the other week there, he said, honestly, why did you even marry me? And I said, well, your sister was already taken.
Right, so that's the final instalment for Mrs. M. Right, so we'll stop back share there. Right, I think I'll put myself on the screen here first because I can handle this a wee bit better than anybody else. Right, hold on. Spotlight, right, spotlight for everyone. Right, me, right, remove all pinned, continue. Right, so that was the final instalment, Mrs. M, for this week. And we've got some reactions for people that were watching online as well. We've got some ha-has and waffles and some laughing faces coming in. Graham also says it's utterly heartbreaking what the SNP has done to Scotland. Right, I don't disagree with that. I think it's absolutely terrible. Right, so now that the folk have had the chance to digest Mrs. M properly, what we'll do is we'll go back and we'll say to Eileen first of all, what was your thoughts there on that we final finish up with Mrs. M there?
Oh, it was brilliant, right?
There's
only cause I know somebody that peed in their ex-wife in the bath.
See, sometimes it's the wee subtle ones, sometimes it's the silly ones, right?
No, but it wasn't that. She thought I'd be shocked, right? And I went, I says, but your behaviour, I says, you're lucky you never had a shit on you after what you done.
Oh dear.
Oh, dear.
No, we went periods, pissing in the bath. No, we went wild, man. Right,
Sorry, I've lowered it on you.
It's went wild. Right. So, Potty, what was your thoughts here on Mrs. M, the final instalment to Mrs. M?
Brilliant.
So I might
succinct and to the point, if you know what the point is.
Aye. I might make that full episode of Mrs. M available on YouTube, depending on sort of demand for it. Mrs. M is also available on TikTok. It's at Walney on TikTok, Wullnae, like Walney, as in Walney, I'm not doing it, a Walney, right? Anybody that's no Scottish, you might not understand this, but anybody that's Scottish will know exactly what I'm talking about. Walney. At Walney.
Aye, you Ernie. No, you Walney.
Oh, I'm Ernie. I am off, right?
Aye.
No, you will. No, Walney, right? So that's us. Right, so we've run on a wee bit, so I need to say thanks to Scott Forbes for joining us earlier, talking about his bestseller book that's been launched, A Long Walk to Justice. I messed this up earlier. I said A Long Walk to Freedom. It's A Long Walk to Justice. My apologies to Scott in his absence as well. Eileen, over to you to say cheerio for the night.
Nice to speak to everybody.
Aye,
right, and it's been a while, right? But there's things I'm getting so deeply worried about, like my fellow citizens. I think I'm going to be okay this winter, right? And I'm really worried about my fellow citizens in this country, right? I think people are going to die. And I'm going to get really, really angry about that. Really angry.
Well, look, it's one of the things. It's been a while since you've been on, so I'm still waiting for you and Rattles, mind the explosive one that we're going today, but I'm waiting on you. So I was giving you.
You know, I've developed this thing since the last time I've been on. I've this shaking of the hands kind of thing. I used to have this beautiful handwriting, right, and now it's like, right. So I went to the doctor and I got an examination, neurological and all that. I've got something that's called essential tremor.
Right.
Right, and there's no like a cure for it or anything. And the doctor went last me. She says, "Have you noticed? If you have maybe a couple of glasses of wine, that it goes away." And I went, aye. Right, I says, "But doctor," I went, "I can't stay drunk for the rest of my life."
Eileen,
Much as I would like to.
I didn't know you drunk until I seen you sober. Right, anyway, Porty, over to you. Say goodbye.
Listen, fabulous night. I've really, really enjoyed it. What I would say, I mean, as Eileen's worried about citizens, I would say the same, but what would you do if you were pushed into a corner? Because that's what's happening. We're getting cornered, you know. It's time to rise up, it's time to stand up, it's time to do something.
We've got more rights than anybody knows about and cares to actually check out for themselves. However, it's got to get to a stage where it doesn't matter what rights we've got.
As I says to Sarah Salyers, it's time to take this discussion off the internet and start meeting. Right. Some of us old campaigners have manned these barricades before. We know how to spot, whoever it is, kind of thing. And there should be a wee bit of training. And it's time for us to come off the internet, meet in person, right, and plan our tactics. Right? Because this is going to be one dirty fight.
Aye, leave
your mobile at home.
Aye, that's it. Let's go off grid, folks. Right, and in talking about going off grid, we're going off grid for this evening. I will be back tomorrow evening with a special catching up with Scottish feminists, representatives for the Scottish feminists, and then on Wednesday, hopefully I'll be back with JB and Jan, along with Tommy Sheridan. There's still opportunity for other people to get involved in that. Even the two that are on here, Tommy's got to be talking about Yestival and just prepping us for that. Right.
I like listening to Tommy. I prefer to watch him, definitely.
Right,
to listen to him.
He's on Wednesday live, so we'll be putting that out as well. As I say, hopefully we'll have John and Jan back. I've still to message them because the one with Tommy is relatively new. So we'll say good night for this evening, everybody. Thanks for Tweet Street Scotland Occupied, for the Satirical Saltire, for Cinnamon Bridges, aka Peter, for Scott Forbes, for Porty Soul, for Eileen and her family who keep on chatting in. It's good night for everybody.
All the best.